Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting, Wednesday. Today is May 29th, 2024. Here at the Fire Training Center. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Terry Brown, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start off because of the possible length of today's meeting, depending on how many people come to speak. I'm going to hold off on an update and just get right into the meeting. Okay, item number 4, minutes. To consider and act upon the minutes of April 17th, 2024 and May 1st, 2024. May I have a motion?
Second.
Any comments? Seeing none, go to the public. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. I want to thank Peter Wiswell for his service on Flood and Erosion Control Board. He's stepping down, resigned as of May 18th, 2024. Item number 6, Mr. Sayal is on Zoom. This is an appointment to hear, consider, and act upon the following appointment: Parks and Recreation Commission, Yosef S. Sayal, U, 125 Hunyadi Avenue, term 1121 to 1125. He's replacing Robert M. Jimison IV, who resigned March 20th, 2024. May I have a motion?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Sayal has been a baseball coach for 12 years, at least 12 years, for the Fairfield National. He was also a Babe Ruth coach. His team went 17-3 2 years ago, and this year won the Babe Ruth championship in the fall. He also founded a basketball team made up of kids who were cut by PAL, formed the team and was able to get them into the mix, playing against PAL teams in Southern Connecticut. I think he'd make a great addition to the Parks and Rec. But he's also an avid cricket player, so you may want to bring some cricket matches to Fairfield. Any comment?
Yes, so I had asked a couple things. The application that came in had one party affiliation, and on the agenda it has a different one, so I'm just confused about that. And I had asked Jennifer if we could all have a copy of the prior applications. I know there was a woman who applied 2 weeks or a month ago, and Christine Brown had reached out to me, I don't know, about a month or so ago, and asked me if I had any preferences for this open position, and I had just said that I really didn't, but I did think that we should try to populate the next this opening with a female, because I thought we didn't have that many females on that board. And there was a woman who did apply about a month ago, and I was just wondering why she wasn't considered.
I mean, she was considered, but number one, on the question of Democrat versus affiliated, he is registered as an unaffiliated. So I'm not sure where that confusion came from. Maybe Mr. Sayal thought he was a Democrat. Did he fill that out?
Yeah, on his application.
But he's not. And the I looked at the applications. I think we only got 2. In terms of getting you all of the applications, you received them, right? Or
no,
because there were only 2.
Right.
So, yeah.
I thought it would be good for us just to have them here.
The 2?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, we don't normally go over applications that aren't selected. So, but you know, there's always opportunities as people step down, as we turn over.
I hope that then the next opening comes up, this woman would be considered. I think it adds value to have a balanced committee with more women on it.
Okay. Can we, Mr. Sayal, can you go take yourself off mute and maybe introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity, First Selectman Gerber. My name is Yusuf Sayal. I've lived in Fairfield for quite some time, 20 plus years. My kids are now grown. I've got a 14-year-old and I got a 17-year-old. One who is attending Fairfield Woods and the other one is attending Fairfield Prep at the moment. I've got pretty much all my family who lives here. My brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, everyone resides in Connecticut. Majority of them are in Fairfield. So I grew up playing sports and you know, to First Selectman just mentioned earlier, now I've got the opportunity to give back to the community, and I've been doing that, you know, for the past 10 plus years, whether it's baseball, basketball, or other volunteer opportunities as well. But again, I mean, I can, you know, just from a diversity perspective, you know, can bring in, you know, just some different ideas and thoughts. Just because I listen to a lot of the parents, you know, on the field, you know, just interaction that I have amongst other individuals throughout the town that I have acquaintances with now as well. And again, at the end of the day, you know, just by being out there, I can bring that voice up. And from it happens to be Asian American Month, and you know, the background that I'm from. And again, First Selectman mentioned the fact that, you know, I'm an avid cricket player. And so there's a lot of folks that talk about, you know, playing cricket in Fairfield, and again, bringing the multicultural, you know, aspect of things as well, because, you know, we all love that sport back home as well. So again, I'm just thinking from an athletic perspective, but again, you know, the ideas and thoughts can broaden as we go along, especially when it comes to, you know, health and wellness, and bringing some opportunities to the Parks and Rec position.
Thank you so much. Any other comments? Oh, yes.
First, 14 and 17, your children are still growing. Your children are not grown. I was expecting to say that they had adult, like 14 and 17, they're still kids. I think that Mr. Sayal will be a great addition to this commission, just for his experience with various sports teams. He brings diverse perspective to the commission. His ties to the community, I think, will elevate numerous voices, maybe that haven't been elevated in the past, and look forward to seeing him serve.
Thank you so much.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you, Yusuf. I can't wait to see what you do on the Parks and Rec Commission.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Item number 7, Deputy Chief Eddie Wire will present with the Purchasing Director, Adam Toulin. So this is to hear, consider, and act upon an amendment to a KGA services agreement between KGA Inc. and the Town of Fairfield Police Department for the term July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026. To hear, consider, and act on agreement between the Town of Fairfield Police Department and BCS for annual support upgrades and hosting for a term of July 24th to June 2025. This approval includes the authorization for the Fairfield Police Department to enter into renewals with BCS on similar terms and conditions. And C, to hear and consider and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed agreement with Maritime Chevrolet of Fairfield, Connecticut, to provide a Chevrolet Express cargo van for the Fairfield Police Department per Town of Fairfield sole source bid waiver dated May 23rd, 2024, and the Maritime proposal dated May 17th, 2024, for a total proposed purchase order of $44,845. Funding for this project is available in account 11001-41550-30405, dog warden donation and contributions. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, Deputy Chief.
Thanks for having me. So I'll start with KGA. They're our EAP provider. We've been very happy with their responsiveness and their services. Their fees do not meet the threshold for requiring the bid process, and they were the right fit for us as far as how comprehensive and relevant their services are to the needs of police officers. We respectfully request renewal of services for the period July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025. Sorry, I think I wrote 6. Oh, no, it is
26.
Yeah, 2026. Nice. And that's their fees are $2.54 per employee per month. So at 112 employees, that equals $3,413.76 per year. But for the 2-year contract, it's about 69.
Can this be renewed after 2 years on similar terms and conditions? I guess we did not put that in. Okay. Any questions from the board?
Curious just how you use the information. You get quarterly reports and just reading this. Does that go to the first selectman or just to chief? I'm just curious to know in terms of the data that you've collected, how the service is being used, if it's informed any sort of programming or identified a need and that will support the department.
Yeah, as far as I know, I mean, a lot of these are protected information like mental health support and financial health care. All of that is not information that would be back to us.
No further questions.
Going to the public, any comments on KGA? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Okay, unanimous. On VCS?
VCS is a sole source provider for our scheduling software, as well as the app and the web portal service that ties into our scheduling software for remote access. As you may know, police department scheduling is very complex with 24/7 operations and several shifts, bureaus and divisions working different schedules. We build out our employee schedules months in advance, and VCS also allows management of lead requests, balances, and trends. And we respectfully request renewal of services for the period July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025 in the amount of $10,136.52.
This is a renewal.
Yes.
Any questions from the board? Any comments from the public? Excuse me, Chelsea. If someone has a question, will you see it on your screen?
Yeah, and it'll come up on the
Okay.
chat section.
Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, thank you. And finally, maritime ship relay.
Okay. So animal control has been telling us for a while that they need a new van. Obviously, they're especially equipped for animal rescues and transports with the necessary equipment to capture, control, and care. A properly equipped vehicle not only maximizes efficiency, but also safety for the animals and COs alike. With vehicle options and availability being greatly limited, which has been a problem for us for a couple of years now, we were able to find what we needed readily available at Maritime Chevrolet. And we respectfully request to purchase said vehicle from animal control donation funds in the amount of $44,845.
Thank you. Adam Toolin, are you there?
Yes, hi, this is Adam Toolin.
Hey, Adam, do you want to comment on the sole source bid waiver quickly?
Yes, I'll just add on to what the deputy chief said there. We've definitely been seeing consistently over the last couple of years that it's been pretty difficult to do traditional procurement methods for vehicles. The state contract for purchase of vehicles is again traditionally sort of the path of least resistance, but that's become more and more difficult to utilize. And we've also put some vehicles out to bid recently, and we're just not getting good responses. So we found that this quote that we got from Maritime, which is a local dealership, was roughly halfway in terms of cost, is roughly halfway in between the state contract price, which is traditionally sort of the lowest, and retail price, which would be higher. So again, with it being a local dealership and that price point being sort of right in the middle there, and just availability, we felt comfortable proceeding with a bid waiver at this point. I will add, I've reached out to peers in other towns just to see what other communities are doing, because this, as I said, this is increasingly becoming a problem. The state contract has been more and more difficult to work with. So I'll report back when I know more, when I have more information on that.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah, it made a lot of sense to me. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? None. All in favor, say aye. Unanimous. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Item number 8.
Motion to waive,
8 and 9. Well, do you want to take them? Okay. Yeah. Waive the reading of 8 and 9. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are waiving the reading of 8 and 9. There was a mistake in the description of 8. This does not require Board of Finance or RTM approval. Would you like to come?
This is Terry Brown, Grant Coordinator, speaking on behalf of,
Probably best to come up here, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
Dave.
Good afternoon.
Terry Brown, Grant Coordinator, speaking on behalf of Adam Cliver, the Chair of the Historic District Commission, who successfully applied for this grant from the State Historic Preservation Office. It is a no-match grant. $15,000 was awarded, and for the purpose of hiring a consultant to update the Historic District Commission guidelines. Mr. Cliver believes, and the commission has approved, that this will be a great advantage to folks looking to make renovations. It will clarify a lot of the material and update it. And so we think it'll be helpful to the community. And the grant is available, but we're asking for your approval for the first selectman to sign on behalf of the town.
Any questions from the board?
Will the $15,000 cover the full cost?
Mr. Cliver obtained some not formal estimates, but he did research to make sure that it would. And this type of initiative is between 10 and 15,000, so he'll stay within the bounds.
Go to the public. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you so much, Terry. So we've waived the reading, so stands clear. Talk about the Daydream Communication.
The funding for this was approved, the grant was approved back in December by Selectmen, Board of Finance, and RTM. This is the contract for the promotional campaign. It's $44,000. We're doing this in conjunction with 6 or 7 other towns along the coast from Darien up to Stratford. And so we are seeking
Any questions, comments? Any questions or comments from the board? I mean, from the public? None, all in favor say aye. Aye. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So Human and Social Services, the Director, Julie DeMarco, is coming up to hear, consider, and act upon an affiliation agreement between the town of Fairfield, its Human and Social Services Department at Fairfield University for a Bachelor of Science work BSW Field Education Practicum for the purpose of hosting a social work interns for the school year. May I have a motion?
So pre-COVID, we would have social work master's levels and occasionally bachelor's levels. This is our first foray back in post-COVID. We have not partnered with Fairfield before. They require and this is for your approval that sign it and then have our students start the ball.
Wait, I'm sorry, you said you have not what with?
We haven't partnered with Fairfield.
Oh, you have?
Usually we WestCon or Sacred Heart.
You normally sign contracts? I thought it was
We
interesting.
haven't yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the first time you've signed it as a contract. Who will be the proctor or?
The supervisor for the
Supervisor.
student, yep.
Yeah.
So people, in social work, you can have a supervisor, everybody supervisors or is it like the task supervisor.
Right.
Needs to be a master's level. So there's several of us. I'll be the final, sign off. But Allison Witherby is our social services coordinator, who's also master's level, and she will assign the tasks for the student.
Yeah, questions or comments?
Oh, wonderful.
You'll be the field instructor, and really what they'll be doing is really based on need, or do you foresee a particular area going into this relationship where you could see this intern working?
So this is a bachelor's level, so there's no clinical work. There's no, we do some crisis intervention and some ongoing counselor and benefits kind of assessments. So the student will sit in on that, but not be able to meet one. Operations and procedures manuals or some of our publications, but also be able to sit in on assessments, sit in on energy assistance, and do some home visits, just kind of get a taste of everything as a bachelor's level. And typically.
Had any other universities reach out?
Yeah, we are limited on space, so we have maybe a master's level at a different school.
That's great. Always love to support those going into the field, and to have a student from our local university is wonderful.
Internship, so. The health department. Any other comments? Seeing none, to the public, any questions, any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Item number 11, IT Director, to hear, consider, and act upon a service agreement between the town of Fairfield and NetSpeed LLC, DBA Go NetSpeed, for business fiber services for a term of 60 months. Dave Kelly, thank you.
Hi, Parks and Recreation installed a new security gate at the Jennings Beach exit entrance. And police and fire would like to be able to get through the gate in an emergency without crashing through it. So we are attaching the gate system to the police department's existing security key fob system. To do that, we need to give it a network connection, and this is a very cost-effective way to do that without putting a real town network.
The genesis of that gate being installed is the South Benson area neighbors had several crashes from people partying at Jennings Beach, and then driving and drag racing on the road and driving off people's properties and almost took out a family. And so they asked us to do this. We did it, but it required a little work.
That may be why we're also adding security cameras on the record, yes,
Yeah.
which will also use this connection.
Any questions?
I'm wondering how that was going to work with emergency vehicles getting in there. Wasn't sure if there was a sensor or anything when they heard a siren, so now this answers the question.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 12, engineering, interim DPW, John, is he on the line? Oh, William, Bill, are you doing this?
Yep.
Okay. To hear, consider, and act upon a master municipal agreement for construction projects between the town of Fairfield, Connecticut and Connecticut Department of Transportation for a 10-year period of July 25th, 2024 to July 24th, 2034. May I have a motion? Okay, Bill.
Okay, the MMA, as they're called, the Master Municipal Agreement, is a form of grant agreements or contracts with the State Department of Transportation and the town of Fairfield. They do it this way rather than the old way a couple of decades ago where every single agreement had to go to the Attorney General. So this way, the MMA is basically renewed every 10 years, and this is the third go around that I'm aware of, where if the town signs the MMA with the state, we are able to expedite grants and save several months of paperwork and delay, as I said, getting the Attorney General to sign. So typically what they do is the MMAs are set forth. It gets all the boilerplate material out of the way, and then the state for each individual project would authorize a project authorization letter for each detail. So for instance, in the next 10 years, if we have 3 bridge projects and 2 sidewalk projects, they'd all go under the MMA, but each project itself, we would get a separate project authorization letter. And in that letter, it would state how much the project costs, how much the grant quote covers, whether it would be a upfront payment to the town or if it's a reimbursable grant. All that kind of stuff will get done later. This is just a standard agreement between the state and the town. There's usually 4 of them that come through. I believe last year the design one came through. This one is for construction. There will be one for construction administration. And the last one is the right-of-way, which was done in 2014. So it'll probably be presented to us back in the or ahead in the fall for that one. So it's very standard language. I've looked through it. It gives you definition of a construction project. It says who the designated official is, and that's the first selectman. You make sure that we have to follow federal and state requirements, Title VI's, small business enterprises, stuff like that. It's all standard language. There was one minor addition on the small business enterprise that I noticed. And so it's the standard form that they've been using, as I said, now for a couple of decades. And this one will take us from 2024 to 2034. And in the agreement, they do give you a sample at the end of what the PAL is and some of the schedules B, C, D, E, F of all the standard language that they require. So obviously from the town standpoint, I would recommend that the first selectman sign the MMA.
I agree. Thank you, Bill. Any questions?
What would happen if you didn't sign?
We wouldn't, you'd have to go through the lengthy process and you'd still have to eventually sign the agreements anyway.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
Can I make a motion to waive the reading of all the remaining items and just have the presenters come up in an effort to maximize our time?
I'm actually not going to second that, just because I think it's important to have it on the public record, a little just a detail of.
The agenda's on the record. I just think that
Or
we
for
used to,
Or just for people
we
listening
used
to
to do
it.
it quite a bit. Nancy Lefkowitz did it all the time. So that the presenter could just come up and present the item, and especially since these are really items that were never on agendas before. They're just bureaucratic things that are already voted on. They're just administrative items. Most of them we've already talked about and discussed, and these are just the lease agreements, things the board hasn't ever really had in front of them before. And I know that there are 2 items and there's a lot of families here with small children, and people can read the agenda and the presenter, the item. I don't think anyone's missing.
Wouldn't want to talk about this for too long because it would be longer.
Yeah, all right, I will second it, but I just would ask them for the presenters just to give a little bit of a synopsis, just for people who might not have the paper agenda in front of them. That's really my only hesitation. So I will second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're gonna waive the reading. Item number 13 would be Dave Kelly again. And this is, Lepi, I think it's Lepi, USA of Austin, Texas. So give us a little.
This is a software product that will allow us to better monitor our IT environment. We're a relatively small group of people working with a relatively large amount of equipment and locations and people. This will help us to detect anomalies or malicious behavior or accidental behavior within the network. I kind of look at this as an improvement in our security posture.
Any questions, comments from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Next we have the purchasing department. Adam Toolin, you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
You talk about Van Zelm real quickly.
Yes, and it looks like Angelus is also available if there's any questions. This is a relatively small dollar design contract utilizing our on-call architectural and engineering design services list, which Van Zelm Engineers is a part of. So this is $16,500 design contract to perform boiler burner replacement design services at Ward High School. They've performed similar work for us in the past, and again, this is below our bid threshold, so we felt comfortable moving forward using them just off of our on-call design services list.
Any questions, comments from the board? None. Any from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I just want to make a quick comment that anyone here who's expecting to hear about street lights, program for measuring traffic congestion and volumes on every street at all times, that has been postponed. We've taken it off the agenda because we need to do more validation of the data that it produces. Item number 15. Adam Toolin, you're still there with Parks and Recreation Director Anthony Calabrese. Anthony, are you here?
I believe Anthony is unavailable, but hopefully I can answer any questions you might have. We went out to bid, back in the fall. This is sort of a two-part contract where we're looking to engage with a company to design and build a covered driving range structure, and then also provide software similar to, if you're familiar with Topgolf. The idea is to create a Topgolf-like experience, and the idea behind the covered structures is so that it could theoretically be used year-round. We spent a significant amount of time with the vendor, Cover the T's, to develop a scope of work that worked for us and fit within budget. So now we're ready to proceed with awarding a contract.
And this was discussed in depth at the RTM and also Board of Finance. I think we're all expecting this. So any questions?
This has been a long time in planning, and sprint there, driving ranges. A lot of our residents who enjoy it, and it brings in revenue, so I'm happy to see what's coming.
There are a lot of golfers who are excited about this. Selectwoman Vitale, any questions or comments?
Just in terms of any additional cost for the top tracer, because what we're approving is just for the structure, the lights, the dividers. Does this vote basically put an end to this project in terms of approvals to get it moving forward?
I might have to get back to you on that. I thought that this price included the first year of software.
There may be another. But total.
Going back. 257, 150 with enclosed acrylic windows in each bay. Enclosed aluminum hitting bay with covers, and then the dividers, 1,350, and the lighting fixtures is 15,600. When you add those up, that gives us 80,100. We're also voting on the software, so I don't know if we're just approving the software being used, if we're just using the software that needs to be included, or it's already just part of the operating budget and doesn't. Just want to make sure we're not missing.
I don't remember what the total amount was that we.
Yeah, I think I erroneously included the language about the software renewals in the agenda item, so perhaps we could strike that language.
Oh, okay. That should be right. Okay, the last sentence. And the last sentence of the paragraph.
There is the software not part of the package?
Well,
No, the software, yeah. It's an annual charge for the software.
Aside from the,
Again, and Anthony could probably answer this, but more correctly. But if memory serves me, this contract that I'm bringing to you right now is just for the construction, which is being paid for out of these driving range upgrade funds, and then I believe Anthony plans on covering the software costs from operating budget.
Software, it's annual and it's part of the annual operating.
okay, all right. I just want to make sure that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm good. I'm happy to move it forward also.
strike that sentence.
Yeah, make an amendment to strike the last sentence of 15. And a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Item number, make an amended, vote on the amendment, item,
Motion is amended.
motion
So
to
moved.
approve item 15 is amended.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it is approved. Thank you, Adam. Item number 16 is the water pollution control facility, and Adam, you are presenting with John Bodie. You have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Don, are you on? Don,
I'm here.
Okay, you're on mute. Who will talk about the WPCF item?
That's up to you. I can say we're looking to enter into an agreement with the lowest bidder for the repair and cleaning of the secondary digester. We've already met with the contractor. We've given them a scope. We seem to be on the same page. We're just looking for approval to carry on.
Anything you want to add, Adam?
No, I was just going to state that they were the low bidder, and as John indicated, there was a scope review completed. All parties felt they were on the same page. We're within budget, so yeah, nothing else to add.
I would like to add that this is more than we had hoped. This would be simpler, right? And it turned out that the float was broken and needs to be repaired. We have to fix this so that we don't have another long-term problem like we had with the first digester. Do I have that right, John?
Yes, and the price that's listed is the worst case. So if everything that could be broken is broken, this price will cover it. We don't anticipate it being that costly.
Fantastic.
Yep, that's what I was just gonna say. We talked about this at WPCA, and this pricing is for the worst case scenario.
Forgot you're on WPCA.
Yep.
I should have let
That,
you.
that is okay. But our meeting was a couple of weeks ago, so there might have been updated information in terms of the scope review.
Any other comments, questions from the board? Seeing none, Any from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item number 17, we have the same John Bodie and Adam Toolin. This is about smart cover. Who wants to take this, Adam or?
Yeah, I'll just start by saying, we vetted this out. It appears to be a legitimate sole source situation. The purchasing authority, which is myself and Mr. Gerber, reviewed that and accepted that. So if Mr. Bodie has anything he would like to add about what this is, that's fine. But from a purchasing perspective, we felt comfortable with this as a sole source.
I do think it would be interesting for the public to know what this is, John, if you could do it real quick.
Yeah, real quick. These are 15 devices that attach to the bottom of manhole covers and will monitor flow in the pipe 24/7, give us constant feedback, get put in a database, and it will be helpful in us finding inflow and infiltration water that's not supposed to be in the sewer system so we can go after it and rectify it. They're great tools. They're relatively inexpensive for 24/7, 365-day monitoring. So we're excited.
Thank you. So if we find infiltration of rainwater, we can fix it, then we can monitor again and hope that it abates, right?
Correct. We can be ahead of the game and kind of give the engineer the information and say, this is where we got to go after it. They formulate a plan, we fix it, and then after they're done fixing, we go back and say, yes, we're successful.
Awesome. Thank you. Any comments?
For the public's edification, this is something we started quite a few years ago to try to get a handle on the leaking of our pipes, because we're paying so much money to process, not waste, but rainwater. So it's really great that we're moving forward. So, bravo.
WPCA totally supports this, just to get vehicle targeted interventions and hopefully, as Mr. Boyd said, get ahead of some of the problems out there and be targeted and
Yep. Okay, any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, John and Adam. Item 18, consider and act upon tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $23,995.42. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, just real quickly, with every meeting we have these refunds, they're usually almost all or a large percentage of these are related to automobile tax. The automobile tax can be quite complicated. It is paid in arrears. Sometimes people have to pay automobile tax on cars that they've already gotten rid of. And then they have two payments to make, one on a new car, one on an old car. It takes up a significant amount of time in the tax collector's office. And while maybe not very popular, we've condensed two payments into one this year to be only 20 towns in Connecticut, now 19 do car tax collection. So it's unfortunately, I know it's for some people, this is not making them happy, but we're sort of becoming part of the majority of the way the state works. Any other comments or questions?
I mean, just to comment on that, Bill, we had also looked at this. I know our town is not one of many. However, this actually was not discussed as an item that was discussed about how the RTM would handle it if we were to move forward. What would be some of the components and how would it work? And, I got a lot of feedback from residents who say they had no idea this was happening. So, when I had looked at it a couple of years ago, we had planned on a lot of PSAs, lots of newsletters, stuff in the paper, even a mailing to residents so they could have a heads up. I know not everyone, maybe it's not a big deal to some people, but there are people in our town that are, struggling and to have to get hit with a bill that they weren't aware of 6 weeks before is just not a great thing for us to be doing, and I wish there was more public information shared with people.
Yeah.
They could have known that.
I agree with you. I could have done a better job on this. We talked about it at length at meetings, but people don't watch meetings, and I should have been more sensitive to that. Even not everyone reads the newsletter. Could have put it up as a banner on the website. Just learn how to do that on the new website. And going forward, if something like this, I think we're much more in tune with the public relations component of that. But on this item, or any questions or comments?
Yes.
Any from the public? None. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item passes. Okay. Item.
Before we go into the next item, just because we didn't have your select person update, I just wanted to follow a couple sort of point of information. I had asked at prior meetings, and I had followed up with emails asking if we could get an update on Rooster River early about what is the current status, what is going on with the funding, Army Corps of Engineers, so we know, and we haven't had that on the agenda yet, so I'd like to ask again. And if we are not going to be able to make the deadline, we're not going to be able to encumber in time, that I would request that we would put a bonding item on the agenda to cover the money that we're taking out.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting a lot of concern from our Rooster River community, and they want to know, they're asking what's going on, and I told them I don't know what's going on. So,
Yep.
So I would ask that that be on the agenda, and also, I don't even know how I want to go. I'd ask if we could start having our capital planning updates. I had changed the process when I was in office and have two Board of Finance, two RTM, and the Board of Ed be involved in planning, talking about our 5-year plan and then what happens after that. And we had a lot of good meetings that were taped on FairTV. Our community and elected officials who couldn't attend had an opportunity to see what was happening, what was the town looking at, what were they going to be spending on capital projects, and we haven't had anything. It's been 6 months. And so I think it's really valuable to this board to know what is going to be coming down this pike. Where is that 5-year plan that my administration put together? Has it changed in any way? When are we going to start moving forward with these projects? As we know, we have extraordinary amount of capital projects down the pike, and I think it's really valuable to get an update. So I would request respectfully that we get an update at our next meeting, if you please go.
Okay, let me respond to both of those. The first is way ahead of you on Rooster River. I was going to talk to you after the meeting. This is sort of in motion. We are going to have to put the bonding into a special meeting. We would like to have had it tonight, but it just couldn't have fit on the agenda tonight. And the Board of Finance, at the last Board of Finance meeting, they basically all said that they would vote to approve this. So I know you were concerned about them not necessarily signing up to that. We are going to, it appears we will have no headwinds getting that on the bonding schedule. And ARPA will also have to be changed for that reason. So because Rooster River, it's very, very unlikely it could make the deadline. For ARPA, we would lose the money. On the capital planning piece, we, as you know, or I think you know, we've put a significant amount of effort into capital planning. There was an opinion which is somewhat different than yours about the capital planning workshops, that they weren't terribly well thought out, not very useful. We've actually dedicated a person to work on that significant amount of time in revamping the schedule. You should take a look at it if you haven't seen it, but I think you may have. It's online, but I'll get you a copy of it.
But I think it's important that we do it in a public meeting. The person that you're talking about, we have hired to pull together.
Yes. Just let me finish real quick. So we've been discussing capital planning and the 5-year projection in a very intensive way at Board of Finance meetings if you would like to do that at the Board of Selectmen meeting, let me know.
Yes, I had asked that for a couple months, because let's face it, the viewership of a Board of Finance meeting is probably next to zero. And our meetings, no one's really watching them either. But at least we can send a link out with a PowerPoint, and we
Yeah.
can send out a link to the capital plan, because that's great, that I'm glad that you're working on it, but no one knows that outside of your administration or the Board of Finance
Yeah.
members. So the public needs to know.
We are also working on implementing a program that will daylight the whole capital planning process with in a way that people can drill down from the website.
So do you think we could get it on, we could have a discussion about it or a presentation?
We haven't selected the vendor yet. We're looking at one more vendor, but we've talked to maybe
vendor?
3 or 4 vendors.
What does the vendor do?
The vendor for this, there are programs where you enter in capital plan. I'm sorry, you put all your capital planning in, and we had a problem in the past with Excel spreadsheets being used that didn't add up, and Excel spreadsheets changed that people didn't know they were changed. So when you went to a Board of Finance meeting, they pulled out the old Excel spreadsheet, which is very large, and said, why did that move from this year to that year? And that was prevalent, and I made a promise we were going to try to fix that. And so we're working on programs that other towns use that allow you to sort of lock it down and create an authorization process around changing schedules, changing amounts, you putting your grant funding against it, you putting your spending against it, all uploaded from the Munis system. So it's been difficult to use the Excel spreadsheets. It doesn't really work for a town our size, and other towns are using sort of more professional processes.
No, it sounds wonderful. It's just that I think and that's great, but I'd love to at least see where we are on the project list. Now, maybe some things might move around because of the vendor. As we know, vendors take time. It could be a much longer process. And in the meantime, we're not going out to bond on anything. We're not moving forward on projects. So I think it's important for us to just at least see the list and the technical
Yeah, the
aspects
list is
of it.
publicly available, but I will get it to you and we can discuss it.
I would love to discuss.
Yeah, and the process is, what I would like is a rolling process where we discuss at least quarterly, probably at the Board of Finance meetings in detail, so that it's not all condensed into a short period.
And it would be great if we were doing that.
And I agree. And I think I also asked for the capital waterfall to be on one of our agendas. I think it was back in April, because it did go to the Board of Finance. It didn't come to us. And I think that it has been updated. The administration staff has done a lot of work on it. And I think it would be valuable, being we're the board where these capital projects in terms of approval start, that I think that it would be advantageous for us to ask questions and weigh in on it. So if there's any changes, they can be done sooner rather than these projects are before us.
Great.
So now that the budget process is over, appreciate the administration has been very busy with that. Hopefully there'll be some more time in the coming, months that we can have a good discussion about that at this board table.
Okay,
Thank you.
since we have so many people here, and I sort of told a bunch of people that we'd probably be done a half an hour into it. I was wrong. It's 50 minutes, 55 minutes, but so I apologize for that. But we're going to item number 19, and item number 19 is not a voting item. The contracts, the authority rests with the first selectman's office. We then bring contracts to the Board of Selectmen for approval. So tonight really is to hear from the public your concerns, which I've heard a lot already. We are going to allow public comment. There's so many people here. I would assume many people are going to want to stand up and provide public comment. Could I just see informally a show of hands how many people intend to come up and provide public comment? I mean, actually, it's not so many. I think we can go with 3 minutes. Is that right? 3 minutes per person.
Would you mind just sort of giving some background about how we got here?
Well, yes, but still, I just want to make sure that you're okay with 3 minutes.
Absolutely.
So if you have 10 minutes, I just want to give you a warning in advance if you can try to compact your statements down to 3. So I'm going to start off with how I how I got here, and I'm going to speak for myself, and I have learned a lot over the last several days, but I prepared something, so forgive me if it sounds a little. I hope we can all agree that different sides of the same situation can be true at the same time. From the perspective of families with children attending or hoping to attend a child's garden, there is a daycare shortage in Fairfield, which is particularly acute in the infant toddler group. Many parents currently at a child's garden are very concerned, some panicked about not having practical options for daycare a year from now. Parents have been on daycare waiting lists for years. Some parents are worried they cannot work and they have to move if they can't find daycare. While the town offered us to renew a child's garden lease for another year, ending May 31st, 2025, many parents do not believe it is possible to find a practical solution for daycare within a year. Many parents think a child's garden is a good fit for their children. They like the teachers. They associate the space at Mona Terrace with the child's garden. Some correspondence I've gotten is more about the need for daycare and requesting that even if longer-term solutions are sought by the town, there should be a bridge to solve the short and medium-term needs of caregivers currently enrolled at a child's garden. Some correspondence has been more about a child's garden specifically, that a child's garden must be, quote, saved, unquote, for an indefinite period of time. So from the town administration's perspective, which is for myself and others, the town of Fairfield needs the space at Oldfield Elementary School. The Early Childhood Center, or ECC, needs the space to fulfill the state mandated early childhood education needs. They're growing very fast. The ECC is a preschool that serves primarily children identified for early intervention. ECC strives for a 50-50 mix of children identified for early intervention and, quote, typical learners, unquote. It has grown tremendously in recent years from under 100, not that many years ago, to 250 this year. The ECC has been unable to achieve the 50% typical learner ratio, and part of the issue may be that having both ECC programs on the northwest side of town means on the northeast side of town means that some children sit on a bus to get there for almost an hour each way. Our Human Services Department needs the space for counseling. Our Health Department needs the space for nurses and our health clinic. The town administration has a perspective on stewardship of town assets as well, and on transparency around leases. The town can only speculate about ACG's or a child's garden's finances in the Fairfield site. Maybe Examiner Road ACG charges $27,285 per year for the infant toddler program and $23,358 for 3s and up. I have seen an estimate that ACG enrolls about 30% in its infant toddler group and 70% in its 3s and up group with a 160 child capacity. So with that, it seems that ACG's Fairfield revenue could be as high as $3.9 million a year, depending on financial aid and percent of capacity utilized. If you subtract the $82,500 a year for rent paid to the town, which appears to be $8.25 per square foot for this 10,000 square foot space, this is a small fraction of the market rate for space and property like the one at Mona Terrace. Subtract $400 per month or $4,800 per year, which appears to be about 1/3 the actual cost of utilities for the space. Don't subtract any real estate costs because this is a municipal building, but in the normal world, that would be about $67,000 per year for this space in an arm's length scenario. There's no maintenance costs for ACG, which you'd expect to be about $30,000 to $70,000 per year, based on some commonly applied rules of thumb. There's no grounds maintenance costs for ACG for snow plowing or mowing. The town pays ACG's share of property insurance. But I don't know what other insurance costs ACG has. In short, it appears very possible that the town of Fairfield is subsidizing ACG's business to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Now, government is all about funding things. It's not about funding private businesses. It should never be about allowing government-owned assets to be used to enrich individuals at the expense of the public. I may be missing something, but it seems ACG in Fairfield may have as much as $3.7 million per year available for its employees, supplies, and profit to the owners. I don't know how many full-time equivalent teachers ACG employs. Is it 20? If so, compensation, including benefits, if it's $90,000 a year, that's a total of 1.8 million, which leaves about 2 million for supplies and profit. Is it 30 at an average cost of 100,000? That would leave about 840,000 for profit. The truth is Fairfield has no idea. I don't know why former administrations didn't investigate and analyze this situation. We treat a child's garden like it is one of our most important town-funded not-for-profits, but it is not a not-for-profit. The not-for-profits we help fund are very transparent. They produce public financial statements. They file Form 990s. They have boards of directors. They make presentations to town officials and town bodies. And they answer detailed questions as a precondition of being funded. The Center for Family Justice, for example, provides services to shelter battered and abused women and families. You will see how much they get in revenue and how they spend their money in their financials, in their Form 990s. You'll even see how much compensation the CEO makes. It's about $160,000 plus a year. A parent who needs and appreciates the services of a child's garden might be thinking, I don't care about any of this. This is not about money. I just desperately need a child's garden. And to me, that is a truth, and it is understandable. But there is another truth at the same time, and I hope people accept this. While making what I fear is an extraordinary amount of money, the owners of a child's garden have not been willing to break from the large subsidies provided by the town of Fairfield. The town has pushed for a break for years, even putting ACG on a year-to-year lease that specifically calls out the town's right to use the space for other purposes. Prior administrations could have signed longer-term leases and did not. The owners turn to the parents, rally them, and the town has retreated in the past. In some emails I get, the owners of ACG are painted as small-town underdogs that don't have the means to make it on their own. Ultimately, if this administration is going to be persuaded by that depiction, we will have to review tax returns and financial statements, and I believe the public has the right to know what those show. If I am wrong about the profits the owners of ACG have made, I will be happy to discuss that publicly. We have made a small step. I've indicated a willingness to talk to the owners, give them a chance to open the books up to our administration, as well as provide transparency to the public. I am willing to discuss a structure and arrangement that the town can live with. If the owners are not willing to do that, you can make your own assumptions as to why. I would hope the parents here will hold the owners of ACG as accountable as you would hold your town government. We can work on a long-term alternative solution to daycare that does not involve ACG, or maybe does involve ACG. We can work on short and medium-term solutions that do include ACG, or maybe does not. Our administration and our state delegation and Board of Education chairwoman had a very informative meeting with the Commissioner of Early Childhood Education, and we all agree this daycare shortage is an issue that has to be solved. Because of all of you, I've become even more acutely aware of the daycare shortage. So thank you all for that. But I will be perfectly transparent. I do not and never have believed that a child's garden needs, quote, saving, unquote. I fear that ACG could have cut the cord with town-owned property many years ago with the profits it has made over the years, but it was too good a deal to give up. The town has been renewing this lease on a one-year basis for at least 15 years, yet they never found their own space, while so many others have during this period. I worry that a Child's Garden has been charging market prices, albeit at the lower end of the top tier, without sufficiently passing excess profits on in the form of tuition reductions for those who need it. But if I am proven wrong, I will admit that. We won't know until we see the books. Under the circumstances, I personally believe it is irresponsible for the town to be wedded to the company, a Child's Garden, even if we decide to continue using that space as a daycare facility. Thank you. And would you like to make comments? Any comments? Just have public comment.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, I'm fine with either or. I would like to speak from my perspective because I was in your position for 4 years. So just to give a little history, when I came into office, we had a discussion about, just like you did, you heard that human services and our senior center needed additional space. And we were looking at the health department where the nurses are and moving it into the Child's Garden space. We had a discussion with the owners, and then of course COVID hit 4 months in to my term and everything else was off the table. Finally had a chance to look back at it. Some things became very glaringly, and I have to just say for the record, not once in 4 years, the Board of Ed, superintendent, or anybody ever say to me that ECC was a possibility in this space. We had capital planning meetings, extensive capital planning. It was never discussed, not once. So I was surprised to hear that. The building is in a FEMA floodplain. So when we did work to the building, we did window replacements. We updated the very old bathrooms, which were elementary bathrooms, and we did upgrades to the kitchen. The windows, literally just to replace a window in that building was 10 times what it would cost because there was PCB in the caulking of the window. It's an old building. There's asbestos tiles under the carpets. So everything you do in that building costs a lot more money. And even those projects that we did, we were getting really close to that rule where you can't spend more in a certain period of time. So I said to Julie, I'd love to give you more space, but I don't know that we're even able to afford to fix it enough within a certain period of time because of the 50-50 rule and the problems with this building. It's an old building and it has problems with it. In addition to our very large capital list that just keeps growing. And there's a lot of competing needs. When I talked to the health department about moving in there, frankly, they weren't really excited about moving in there because it's not a great space. It's not in good condition. And to try to renovate it, I mean, I was shocked to hear about the ECC. I don't know how we would even afford it, but we would definitely violate the FEMA rules. So my plan was to just keep renewing it year for year and then see where we were with the costs. We didn't even have concrete costs. To my knowledge, we have no concrete costs of what it is to renovate the space for human services or any other use right at this point. So to me, it made sense to let the Child's Garden stay there so the parents could have at least childcare while we figured out where we were going. Because honestly, we don't know. I mean, we haven't even presented the capital plan to the public. We're still waiting on a vendor to do an analysis of some sort, but we don't have a true list of where we're going. And I know, Board of Ed wants air conditioning on all their buildings. WPCA's got a giant bill coming, giant. We've got so many needs in this town. Old town hall is literally falling apart and sinking into the ground. So there's things. And I don't know, I just feel like, based on what I heard, that there wasn't even a face-to-face discussion with the owners. If there was a concern about the price or what they're charging or what they're paying, I think a discussion should have happened with those people, with the landlords, and say, hey, listen, unless there is a concrete plan to fix up the Child's Garden that we know about that hasn't been disclosed to the public, I don't see why we would move it out until we know what we're doing and how much it's going to cost. Obviously, there is a childcare crisis in the town. We've gotten a lot of emails. There's parents here and they don't have anywhere else to go. Like, there isn't another option for them. So I hope that the board will listen to this. I hope you will listen to them, and hopefully come up with a solution to allow them to stay for at least for as long until we're ready to use the space, like really like ready. We have the money, we have a plan, and we know what we're doing.
Thank you. Would you like to make the comments?
Just for the record, being the former chair of the Board of Education, it never did come up as part of our capital planning discussions in the past, but there has been some changes in the past year. The change in the kindergarten cutoff date now, in terms of children needing to start later, has created a greater need for early childhood spaces in the public school. I can't, the Board of Education, I think, a few questions Ms. Jacobson is on, she can speak to it better, so I don't want to speak in that role. But I think listening to the Board of Education meetings, they have changed their focus in having challenges for space. When I was chair, I met with Mr. Tetro about this space. At that time, the school district was looking for a one-site ECC to put all the classrooms in one space. He was open to seeing if it could work on a terrace, but we decided that it really wasn't an option for many reasons. One, we didn't want to displace the seniors, and two, there were concerns about just the FEMA cap and making that space ready for early childhood programming. This town has looked at that school numerous times and made the decision that instead of renovating it fully, it was more cost effective to open up Mill Hill Elementary School and then to build her. So I understand, in terms of the past, that your administration was not asked by the school district for early childhood programming. But things, as I said, have changed in the last 6 months, and due to increasing enrollment in this population, the need for childcare, and the school district is a provider of early childcare, and the change in the kindergarten cutoff date of just needing seats for those children who we as the town and the school district are by law required to provide a free and appropriate public education to. So that needs to be, I think, a priority for us to make sure that we are properly meeting that mandate that we are required by law to meet. So I very much appreciate the position that Mr. Gerber was in terms of the school district turning to him for, again, reopening the conversation about looking at that space to see if there would be an option for a smaller number of early childhood classrooms. That said, I absolutely appreciate, the child care crisis, and I feel so much for every parent in this room because they are just trying to, find a place for their children to be safe and taken care of while they go to work. I was in that position myself, years ago when I was thinking about going back to work and looked at Child's Garden. At that point, there was a waiting list and ultimately just ended up staying home. I think that the positive of this conversation is that Mr. Gerber now is looking at it holistically as a town on how we could help support early childhood care as a municipality. I don't think that the town should be subsidizing a private business. I would have hoped that the owner, knowing that he is in a municipal building and on a year-to-year lease, that at any given moment, he could be asked to leave and plan for an exit strategy for all of his families that he's providing a service for. It doesn't seem, from what I know, I haven't spoken to the owner and have very limited information about this as well, that has happened. So here we are. And looking forward just to hearing more from the public at this point. Very much appreciate the historical background from your point of view. Very much appreciate the situation that the Board of Ed is in right now. They're just trying to do what's best for the children in our school district, and appreciate the first selectman reaching out to our state delegation and the state to see if they could help us provide opportunities for our families.
I agree, and I think that, this, I feel they did to the families across the state. I mean, just pulling the rug out from them, they can't send their kids to garden has caused a real problem, a serious problem. It's a problem. But I know that the board was looking at.
The board is still,
What
and
are we
the
doing?
town, we're still
Are
gonna
we backing it down? Are we building it? Are we adding more space? Would some early childhood go there? Was Jennings able to get some renovations, add some space to that? Right, there's all these fluid conversations going back to the fact that there's a lot of bills coming down the pike. My point is that I think this wasn't handled well. I think that Bill, first selectman should have sat down with the owner, had a conversation about this, talked about all the variables, because that's what you're supposed to be doing. I don't see us spending any money next year reopening that building. And again, we've got the 50-50 issue. We can't just go in there. Have you been in there? I mean,
Can I just interrupt one
it's
second?
not in great shape.
Do you mind if
I just want to say that I think that we should move a little slower, be more thoughtful, before we eliminate it. And if you want to make some kind of arrangement to change the terms of their agreement, but I just think that we're not prepared right now to use the space, and the limitations of it. So,
I just want to make sure you know that it's a year from now, right?
right, but
so
I
we
don't see
will-
us having a year. I don't see us opening up Child's Garden. I mean, the 50-50 rule itself, we can't spend a lot of money in there.
I mean, I don't know if we want to have that conversation right now, but the 50-50, I mean, the valuation of the building, the assessed value of the building is like $10 million. So the 50-50 is $5 million. I don't think I don't think we're gonna have a problem with that. I don't think they see this as being a problem for that. I mean, yeah, so I think they need to get in, they need to do the assessments. If this were going to happen, I'm pretty sure that we could make it happen within the period of time. I guess the question is, are we going to go forward and make it happen? I did sit down with the owner, and I tell you, it was a very pleasant conversation. I think David Becker and I, the CFO, did meet with him. We did tell him we're going to need him out by the beginning of June of 2025. He said, basically, I was expecting this. I said, can we help you find another place? He said, no, I'm not really interested in that. And I really thought that was it, because it was not confrontational at all. I mean, he didn't come back with any other ideas or anything like that. The next thing I heard about it was on the news. So I just want you to know that I did talk to. I didn't just send him an email. But with that, I don't know. Should we pause every X number of people and open it up to us again, or do you think we should just go let everyone speak first? What do you say? Oh, can we take a 5-minute recess?
Thank you.
So we had a request that anyone with small children, or if you need to go pick somebody up, or you should probably come up first. We're going to be seated at the table here to give public comment. So feel free to come up and start. You want to just sit over there?
Can I actually just stand?
Yeah, you can
Okay,
stand.
this is Shannon. She goes to a child's garden. As you know, parenting, we've got to juggle a bunch. So one's there, one's here. So thank you for it.
One other housekeeping. Can you give your name?
Yes,
and
my name is
address?
Amanda Rowland. I live at 104 Alma Drive. I'm also a teacher in town, which is one of the reasons why Child's Garden has been so wonderful for us, because it helps with the time frame that I have for teaching, being able to use full day childcare. Well, I'd like to start, I know I'm the first person, but thank you so much for having us. Thank you for putting us on the agenda. Thank you for the consideration that you've given. I'm very sensitive, as we all are, to all of the needs of the town. I mean, it is pretty remarkable just how many needs we do have. However, I want to echo what Selectman Kupchak has said, as well as other individuals who have emailed, and that the time frame for this is not viable. We have a childcare shortage. We have the kindergarten cutoff as an issue. Very well aware of the ECC's requirements. One of my daughters is actually ECC eligible. I'd like to point out that a Child's Garden partners with the ECC, and we have many individuals who are bused across town to use those services without taking up a spot for a child who needs to attend there full time. We'd like to continue that partnership. If you try to not renew the lease for a year, we are looking at a shutdown of this facility before then, because to be perfectly honest, our teachers are going to leave. They're going to want to find other employment. We are going to have to try and scramble to find other childcare options. Parents that attend a Child's Garden with their students are typically people that have inflexible hours. Teachers, police officers, firefighters, nurses, healthcare workers. It's not people that we can just leave in the middle of the day at a half-day preschool to go and move our kids to some other childcare option. What we are asking is for a long-term solution. Please sit down with us and figure out a long-term plan for what needs to be done to Mona Terrace, for what facilities would like to go in there, what needs to be done, and what we can do to stay in the area. That's the other thing, is that it is one of the only options in that region of town. Every other daycare that's opening is across town and is not feasible for a lot of us to maneuver with childcare. Please, we're not looking to start a fight. We would just like to make this work for everybody, where we can have options, so that we do not have people having to exit the workforce, having to look to scramble for childcare that is not available. I can guarantee you is not available right now for next year, not even 2 years from now. Please do not rob Peter to pay Paul. Help us out, help us find a long-term solution for this, so that we can get quality education for our children while still support our community and all of the services that do need to be funded. Thank you.
Just to continue on, but Ms. Jacobson's on, I just asked that after public comment, just give the board chair an opportunity to speak if she wants.
Well, she can speak as a member of the public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't like speaking, I kind of spoke for the Board of Advocates, really.
Right. Who would like to be next?
The baby.
Oh, no, I'm just here to.
Don't worry, I mean,
Don't be shy.
don't be shy. Yeah. Just
I mean, what she just said, it was incredible. My name is Kathleen Waugh. My name is Kathleen Waugh.
if you don't
Or you
mind.
can stand up at the table.
Make sure that,
so I can hear you. If you wouldn't mind writing your name on there as well.
Okay. Might be 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Kathleen Waugh. I live at 127 Oldfield Road. I'm here with my kids. We made posters. I want to show them that they need to, share their voice, and when something's important, they need to say something. So I'm here to for them as well. But yeah, we moved here a couple of years ago from New York City, because New York City schools are complicated, and we wanted something simple and easy for our kids
to get to just go to school and not have to change your, hi girls. And not have to change schools around. And it's all about consistency with kids. They get somewhere, they love a place, they go in there, they're happy, and you don't want to change them around. You don't want to move things around. And I mean, I'm probably the least prepared in here because I have my hands full. All these parents have their hands full. But one thing that really caught me was I was reading this banner. It says, "Our family protecting your family." We moved to Fairfield, Connecticut to protect our family, to get away from the hardships and the complications of New York City, and to have a solid family life where we weren't going to be worried about where we were going to go to school next. And to take advantage of all the amazing services and social programs that are here. We're even trying to get Charlie here into the ECC program for the fall, because we've heard amazing things about it and what it can do for kids. So again, here to support and be an ally and whatever we need to do. But yeah, we want to stay at a Child's Garden. We have an amazing teacher there, Miss Maria. And don't you love Miss Maria? And I don't know, Brennan, do you want to say anything else? Again, thank you for the time. And there's a lot of parents that have a lot to say, and I'll let them speak. So thank you.
Thank you.
She wants to stay.
No, he wants
Who
to
would
go
like to
home.
come up next?
I want to touch you. What did you please?
Okay. Well, my name is Derek Klinka. I live at 1653 Mill Plain Road in Fairfield. I've been here for about 4 years, moved once. I have 2 kids at ACG. A couple things. First, thanks for having us. I think you've noticed that there's a fair amount of impacted individuals in this room, but I think this goes a little far beyond this room right now. I'll start with this. Like the last couple of days, my wife and I have been panicked about the whole thing. We're trying to basically piece a puzzle together that we get in terms of flexibility of hours, in terms of what we perceive to be value and quality of care. I know, Mr. Gerber, you spent the first part of it talking about, financials and things like that. We're happy to pay what we do because these individuals at ACG are raising our children. They're raising our children actually more hours of the week than we are these days because of how much work we're actually doing. So sadly, that's the price you pay to do so. And the best case scenario right now is we're looking at wait lists of over a year, probably to get into the next place that still doesn't even give us the flexibility that the ACG does, meaning we're going to have to go to multiple daycares on a daily basis now, probably to ensure that we have coverage that ACG provides. I think one thing I would like to just talk about, and I think you spoke about it previously, Bill, is that we do really appreciate your willingness to sit down with us last week on Friday on the 24th and walk us through. I hope that you found it as constructive as we did. Look, I think your asks of ACG are a lot, admittedly. I think that the 2 places that we focused are transparency and incremental town oversight in the form of financial oversight, as well as a potential board of directors or some form of accountability that the town has over the entity itself in exchange for the fact that it's leasing its space to it. I have multiple questions that I would love to pose in that type of setting, but since you talked about it, I'll bring them up now, which is, I guess when I think about places like the Chelsea who rents from you, do you ask for the same type of financial oversight from them? Like, do you get the financial statements from them on a normalized basis? Because if you're asking for that of these guys, I think you need to also be asking other other private sectors to do exactly the same. Because otherwise, I think if I'm ACG right now, I'm probably saying to myself, why would I hand over something that nobody else does, and that this is not really something that's standardized for the broader world, honestly. unless you're a public company, really. And so I think that you'd find, and the second ask that you had was around fair market value for rent and other town provided services. And look, there's a subset of the parents that are working this ask right now with the ACG leadership. We love what they offer. At the end of the day, we care deeply about continuity of care. That's what we really care about, continuity of care. We love ACG because of all the reasons we just mentioned, all the reasons you're going to hear from all the parents today, but also because like our children are growing up there right now. And so there's an emotional attachment to it. So bear with us as we mention that kind of stuff. But I think what you'll find as we come back and we talk about this in a smaller setting, because I think that's the right forum through which to like continue to navigate this versus this. But I do think you're getting to hear today from all of these parents. We welcome anybody who's willing to come and share their thoughts as well and find a solution with us, that there are going to be reasonable asks coming your way or reasonable offers coming your way that should find a way to bridge this gap between the short-term issue that you guys have created and then the longer-term solution, which is eventually a bigger space for both the ECC and ACG. So we look forward to continuing those discussions. We welcome your partnership and we're here to help. I think everybody in this room ultimately just wants to find a solution that provides them with continuity of care as well as the ability for us to continue to use the town services, because right now, like as much as we all hate to admit it, like ACG does provide a private, like a for-profit service, a private sector service that the town doesn't otherwise really provide. So you call it subsidies, I call it like them filling a gap that the town doesn't currently serve. So it's not at the expense of the public, it's a public service in my mind. So our thoughts, and we welcome anything that comes further.
Thank you for your time, and I want to thank everybody here because presumably the parents that aren't here weren't able to take paid time off for a 4 p.m. meeting on a weekday. So it is unfortunate that the timing of this meeting, but I am grateful for all the parents and the staffers that were able to take time off from their jobs to be here. My name is Jamie Rafferty. I'm a resident of 282 Catherine Terrace here in Fairfield. I'm a parent of 2 children who currently attend a child's garden, and I also work full-time and depend on full-time childcare. It is nearly impossible to find, as a full-time working household, to find full-time quality, consistent childcare, especially post-pandemic. Yet a child's garden is a rare gem in this current landscape, and I strongly urge the town to ensure the continued services of a child's garden in order to support our families, children, and their teachers. There's a reason why this business, this private business, has been around in this town for 43 plus years, with some teachers who have been teaching over 20 years. You cannot find childcare providers anywhere who aren't working for months at a time, and you show up to the classroom, you're handing your new baby over to, I'm sorry, what was her name? Who's gonna hold my baby all day? Because I've been in that position, but that has yet to happen once at a child's garden. I've never handed my children over to someone I did not know for 9 hours out of the day. There is a childcare crisis, and we are looking for a solution. One that meets the needs of the town, absolutely, and one that also meets the needs of the children who require full-time care. A child's garden allows me to have a job and enables me to pursue a career as a working woman and as a working mother. By finding no solution for continuing a child garden program, it will be the working mothers who suffer here. You will drive working mothers like myself out of the workforce with no other option. This is a crisis. And I can assure you that the 2-year wait lists in town with the very few full-time daycares. We're not talking half-day preschools, full-time daycare, so that I can run to a train and then I can run to an office and then I can run home and get back on a train and run back to a child's garden in time. They will be flooded and inundated with 160 children added to these wait lists that already exist. The solution involves no lapse in childcare for the students of a child's garden. A solution that includes extending the lease and finding a long-term answer as to not exacerbate the systemic issue. Now, we are not only in support of extending the lease for ACG, but we're in support of the ECC. It's important to note that ACG parents are also ECC parents. In fact, we're so much in support for the ECC that we urge the town to find an alternative location that is a long-term solution, which Mona Terrace is not. Based off of financials, based off of anecdotes that we've heard at the BOE, that we've heard sitting in this room today. It is not a long-term solution for the ECC. And let me be clear, this is not an ACG versus ECC debate. That is not what this is. It is not a time to displace daycare children in order to find a temporary solution for the ECC either. This is a time for a solution for both sets of children, many of whom overlap in both parties, and all of whom deserve the best care. You are displacing children to fix a temporary problem, and that is not acceptable. And it's also not a solution. It is with my full support that I urge you to extend the lease for a child's garden for zero disruption to our children, working families, and our teachers, so that there is not a lapse in childcare for these Fairfield children. Thank you for your time.
Let's go next.
I just say something really quick. Can you guys just speak up a little bit louder just because of the air? And also, you know, when someone's speaking, look at them. You're looking down a lot. We all looked at you when you were speaking. Look at them.
Well, I'm typing and
Thank you.
trying to take good notes. I'm sorry.
Understand. Thank you.
You have a hand on the screen.
Ms. Jacobson's raising her hand.
We'll let Amanda go first. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm taking detailed notes, much more detailed than we would normally get in the minutes, which are usually very, you know, cut and dry with like person, one sentence.
Hi, I'm Mandy Sharkey. I live at 896 Riverside Drive. I am a Fairfield resident, a public elementary school teacher. Currently, I teach Spanish in Westport currently. I'm also a Sherman mom, an ACG mom, and a former ECC mom. My family started at a child's garden in 2016 when I had my first son. They were recommended to us by my cousins and neighbors who attended ACG and are now in their 30s and 40s. ACG was also recommended by our pediatrician whose own son attended ACG at the time. My mom actually attended the former Sherman Elementary that was once on Sherman Green, and my uncle ended up attending Oakfield Elementary School on Mona Terrace since Sherman was no longer. I have 3 sons, a 7-year-old who attends Sherman, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old who attend ACG, and a 6-month-old daughter. The need for childcare openings is so great that after welcoming our daughter in November, I took the remainder of the school year off, unable to find infant care. The infant room at ACG was understandably at capacity. Therefore, we were waitlisted. My mom, who has always helped provide backup care, is currently undergoing chemotherapy and unable to help. Our daughter is registered to start at ACG next school year when a spot is slated to open up. This will allow me to return to work. I was devastated to hear that after 43 years, Mr. Gerber has chosen not to renew the lease with the Child's Garden. I was also surprised to hear he did not visit the school, talk to the 35 amazing teachers, some of whom have been teaching for 10, 15, or even 20 plus years at ACG. 120 adorable students or close to 200 local working parents before making this decision. I do feel this choice has created a much larger problem in town for a very large group of working families, children, residents, and teachers than anything he might have envisioned it to solve. With a childcare crisis on our hands, we need more childcare facilities, not less. I truly hope the Board of Selectmen will work with the local working families who have been uprooted by this decision. While 16 months may sound like a lot, and even now it's less, I assure you it is not, especially in the childcare crisis we are facing today. We are infinitely grateful for the consistent and reliable care ACG has provided our working family for the past 8 years. We truly love the community of students, teachers, and families we have come to know, and hope you will more carefully consider them in your decision as we all work together for a solution. Thank you for your time.
I want to make one correction. I had said 16 months because I looked at my calendar and I had originally had a meeting with Mr. Miklas in February. I had to cancel and we did not meet until March, so it was more like 14 and a half months. That's on me. I thought we had a hand up online.
She's Jen Jacobson.
Jen Jacobson, did you want to speak?
I will speak. Yes, I'm happy to, but I am more than happy to defer to the parents. If you'd like to let them go first, whatever you prefer.
Okay. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Nicole Feiner, resident of 177 Mona Terrace, mother of 2 children at Child's Garden. I'm also a full-time teacher. I do want to start, I'm very emotional because this place and this school means so much to me. I do want to start by thanking for Selectman Gerber for meeting with a small group of the parents to open the discussion of this agenda item. As I'm sure you've heard, you'll continue to hear, ACG is a family. Of the people you met with, Mandy's the one that told me to get on the ACG waitlist immediately after finding out I was pregnant. Kara ensured my older daughter missed out on nothing when I was home with my younger daughter who had some difficulties as a newborn. And because I believe in paying it forward, I gave ACG my highest recommendation, Jamie, and was so excited to welcome her to our ACG family. I myself am a special education teacher. I need the hours of ACG in order to work, as there's not a work from home option. The location of ACG is also paramount in getting me to work on time. It is the only early childhood center in the beach area, allowing me quickly to get on the post road into work before my first period class begins. My girls are there every single day at 7 a.m., opening up the school with the teachers, our wonderful directors. I have immediate peace of mind that they are safe and well cared for. Additionally, as a teacher, I am only paid the 10 months that I work. ACG allows me to keep my children home or to reduce their hours during the period I am not being paid. To be honest, I am not sure my family will be financially sound without that option. I may need to leave my job or leave Fairfield. Of all the people I have spoken to at other daycares in town, I have not found an option that will allow me to remove my children from care during the summer. Lastly, the teachers at a Child's Garden are undeniably the best of the best. I dropped my oldest daughter off to the infant room at 5 months old, and I never worried for one single minute. This fall, she can't wait to be a Sherman shark, as she says, and I credit her preparedness to the staff and the teachers of a Child's Garden. These teachers are well trained and they're able to make recommendations for any concern that's come up for either of my daughters. While invaluable to parents, these early interventions will also save the town money, as it's more cost effective to front load these interventions than making the costly mistake of waiting until these children have already entered public school and need to catch up. Many of these teachers have been there for decades. Some of them are town residents. We cannot let them lose their livelihood. Many of these teachers are the sole providers for their families. While I understand the pay is not great, please, I do understand as a teacher, they are staying because this is their family and they love what they do, and we need to think of them as well. The news of the non-renewal of a Child's Garden lease is detrimental to not only the teachers and the families affected, but most importantly to our children, who should be concentrating on forming friendships rather than worrying about not seeing their friends at school tomorrow because their school has been closed. Thank you.
We want to defer to Miss Jacobson to see what she has to
Would
say.
you like to speak now?
Sure. I know people just want to get home, so I just was happy to wait if everybody wanted to go first. Hi, good evening, everyone. Jennifer Jacobson, Chair of the Board of Education. Thank you for being here tonight. And thank you to the First Selectman and the Board of Selectmen for putting this on an agenda. We've certainly received emails as well as a board of concerns. I truly understand the predicament and the feelings. We just went through a redistricting conversation, and there are very similar undertones about connections to our schools, our love, our wanting to be in our neighborhoods. And so I certainly feel that and have been a part of those conversations for a very long time myself. With that said, we did get some emails, and I'll just speak to that for my own self. I certainly can't speak for any other member of the board on that. With some innuendo or perceptions or confusion or what's happening or not happening, social media posts, I don't really know. But I'm just gonna set the record straight on a few things that I've heard so far this evening. So I'll back up to earlier in the meeting. Number one, what has changed since the capital planning working group that concluded with the previous administration were two primary things. One, as similar to many of you, the kindergarten cutoff date has changed. For this year in Fairfield, the superintendent has decided that anyone who falls into those months is free to continue to go to kindergarten with simply a letter to the building principal. He has not decided on a plan for next year. So anyone who's in that bucket, know that you can still go to kindergarten. So just wanted to clear that up. The second thing that has changed is that for the 24-25 budget, the superintendent brought forth 3 additional classrooms that were needed to support our current ECC population under Fairfield Public Schools purview. For those of you who may not be aware, the ECC has moved over the past decade, 15 years, across many elementary schools and sites. But currently we're at Ward High School and also at Stratfield Elementary. So 6 classrooms at Ward and 4 at Stratfield. The next budget asked for 3 more classrooms to meet the growing need and to address the kindergarten cutoff date. So now going into Holland Hill and adding an additional one at Stratfield. We are currently, as of May 1st, at 235 enrolled ECC students. And that continues to grow, as some of you may be familiar with the Birth to 3 program that they then transition to us when they graduate out of Birth to 3. It has been an ongoing, long conversation in terms of planning around for this need, but at the point we are right now is the board recognized at this point that we needed to start figuring out where we are going to put more ECC classrooms, because in our elementary schools, between K-5 sections and the additional programming for our K-5 students and CLCs and just for special needs purposes, we are pretty much out of room. Now, not in 5 years when we build something, not in 10 years. So we conducted some due diligence, right? So we looked at rental space that was out of town. We looked at the property next to Giant Steps. We toured Mona Terrace. This was all publicly noticed. And we're looking at, what are some possibilities in terms of if we need additional space, what we could utilize or not. So we are in that process now. No decisions have been made on that. We are updating our plan and our long range plan, but I just wanted to clarify that, yeah, we are looking at that space as a possible EC site. And when we say short term, I'll give you an example of short term. When ECC moved into Stratfield beginning in the 2017-18 school year, that was supposed to be short term. And they are still there. So when we say short term, that's probably at least 5 to 6 years minimum if we were to get through other town bodies permanent space added on. So we are working through all of that at this point. So the FEMA cap has been brought up. I think Mr. Gerber addressed that quite well with the valuation and what that FEMA cap will be. Architects and people had been in the building to see what it might need in terms of being prepared for Fairfield Public Schools purposes. We don't have any official estimates yet, so I want to be clear on that. We have some preliminary idea of what it might need, and so far it's been coming in at under $1 million, but again, those are not official numbers, and of course, everyone will want official estimates before we invest dollars into that property, if we decide to do so. I don't know what really else to say at this point in terms of where we stand, other than we have been looking at many different options. But I just want to relay that I know that there are students who attend a Child's Garden or other preschools as well that also go to ECC for their services. I did hear something about going to, and some emails about, I don't want to look in Westport, or I don't want to look in Norwalk, or I don't want to look elsewhere, and it's in my neighborhood. I just want to express on behalf of our other students that we take care of, that are spending almost an hour on the bus to get to their preschool, one way. So the idea of going across town is currently happening for Fairfield kids. They may not be your kids, but there are kids that are doing that for their preschool. So I'm sympathetic to ease and making the train and all of that, but also understand when we talk about the district, there are different circumstances for different people based on geography. So we're having those conversations as well. So I can't speak to the AG, the Child's Garden and what's happening with the town in terms of that, but from a board perspective, I just wanted to share some of the facts around the situation at this point. Yeah, there are board members that have concerns for sure, right? I mean, it's on record. We had a meeting about that space in terms of how long it will be, how much money we would be putting into it. And there are other board members that say that, you know, we are really out of room in our elementary schools, and what other options do we have in terms of that can be addressed when, as of the 25-26 school year, that kindergarten cutoff date is also really going to grow. So I'm sure none of that is appreciated or well received in terms of where our stance is. Everyone, you know, all kids are Fairfield kids. And I get it. And I do hope that we do find a solution, but know that we have to, as stewards of the district and of the town, conduct our due diligence in terms of being a fiduciary of taxpayer dollars as well, and for the education of Fairfield Public School kids. So there's always a due diligence that we have to perform in terms of what we are doing, whether that be redistricting or building or locations or where we're going to invest precious dollars. As Mrs. Kupchik said, there is a lot of need. That is a whole conversation I could have with you on the side if you'd like to, about how we got here. I would be happy to have that conversation in terms of that. But I just wanted to be here tonight in case any questions came up on our end, because I don't, you know, Christine spoke to some and I appreciate her words, and Mr. Gerber and Mrs. Kupchik as well, two members, former members of the Board of Ed, is helpful to have on this body from my perspective, because they understand the complexities of the district. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but just know that no decisions have been made as of this point as we await some numbers. But yes, we are considering that space for ECC purposes at this time.
Thank you, Jen. We don't want to really get into a Q&A here. I would recommend, if someone has a question for you, they should email you and maybe copy the Board of Selectmen so that we know what the question is and you can let us know. Typically, yeah, public comment is one way, and thank you for making your, I mean, not typically, it is one way.
So just one question.
If Jen could supply the board with the space utilization documents that they used during redistricting, so that we could just have a look. I know they're there. I just don't know how to get to them. If we could get a copy of those.
Jen, did you hear that?
Are they still on the redistricting page on the website, all those plans?
Yes, they are. Everything is on the redistricting website. Yes. And that is also a contributing factor as we plan for ECC. I should say, there's also the comprehensive needs of the districts with some utilization issues. Mill Hill is overcrowded. Osborne Hill is as well. McKinley is very much, you know, out of room as well. So it's not just about ECC, but also addressing many issues across our elementary schools in terms of balancing out those utilizations as well as we move forward. So it's a complex conversation, and I am more than happy to meet with anyone or have a phone call. I speak to people on the phone all day. I really am. I'm happy to have another conversation with anyone if they would like to. So by all means, reach out.
Send, Jen, if you could just send us the link, because I know a lot of our schools are not, they're underutilized. So if we could just get a copy of it, if we could just see it, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you, I'm going to send you the inventory. I can send you, Brenda, whatever you like. But you know, the reality is that, you know, all right, I'll just send it to you. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Ms. Jacobson, I know the board that is looking at updating the facilities, long-range facilities plan. Is that going to be on an upcoming agenda that you could just share with parents here that maybe just want to follow along just for an upcoming meeting if you know it? If not, we'll just tell them to the board.
We have a 2015 long-range facilities plan that the facilities committee has been spent months meeting with our building administrators on deficiencies of all the buildings. ECC is actually not in that plan from 2015, so also part of the thinking is to incorporate that. We already had a meeting on May 14th that is recorded and available to look at a draft of the work. We will be having a first read on June 11th and on June 25th. But know that the long-range facilities plan is not voting on projects or like what size something's going to be or when it's going to be done. It's really just going through each building. What are they missing? What do they need? Air, social worker office, etc. Things like that. So
June 11th and June 25th. In terms
of
of
long-range facilities plan, yeah. First read on the 11th, vote on the 25th is the plan at this time. Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Before we move forward, anyone who doesn't feel comfortable getting up and speaking, send us an email. Even if you send an email, send another email. That's fine. Would anyone like to speak?
My name is Maura Curran. I live at 275 Paulding Street in Fairfield.
Could you speak?
All right, I will enunciate. My name is Maura Curran. I live at 275 Paulding Street in Fairfield. You can drive by, I'm not that far. I didn't prepare anything to speak, and I'm both sorry about that, and also I'm glad that I didn't. Mostly I'm here as an individual voice and a chorus of voices, and most of what I have to share mirrors a lot of what you have heard already. From a very personal perspective, I am a single mother. I am a truly single mother and a single mother by choice. There is only me and my two boys, both of whom go to a child's garden. So you've heard about community, you've heard about family. I have a wonderful family. I have a wonderful support system, but that includes the people at this school. From the moment that we walked in, it was truly like I found a support system that I didn't even know I needed on top of the people who I'm related to and the people that I grew up with. You've heard about the care and the personalization and the trust that is between these families and these students and these administrators. I can underscore to you that when I high-five Nicole Fainer at 7 o'clock in the morning, because I am that mother who is, in order to be a single mother by choice, I have a job that demands a lot of me. I am commuting to New York. I am dropping my children off at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I know that they will be well cared for all day. And not only well cared for, but known and understood. I have a child with severe allergies. I have a child who is evaluated for ECC. We value everything that this town has to offer. We value everything that you are putting into the public school system. I will say that the reason that many of us moved to Fairfield is because of how strong this school system is, because of how renowned it is, because of the care that is put into that. So I can't underscore enough that we are not trying to defer or take away a path to long-term progress here, but to underscore what this childcare crisis means, in addition to the long wait lists. You've heard about ACG's very, very specific structure of flexibility. There is not another childcare center in this town or in nearby towns that opens at 7 a.m. to allow so many of us to do the kind of work that we do and live in Fairfield, Connecticut. There is not another childcare system that I am aware of that allows flexibility during the summer for you to come
when you need it and pay when you need it, and then not if you are a teacher, as so many parents in this community are. There is a level of flexibility and specialization and care and community and family that this childcare center offers that, in my limited experience as a mother of 2 young kids, is unparalleled. And what I would really hate in us navigating this crisis together and trying to find a way to meet all needs is that we create a childcare crisis before kindergarten, where people no longer feel that Fairfield is a place that they can bring their young families. Because that is something that is so valued in this town, the Board of Education, the school system. If we cannot bring our young families here and feel that we have that level of childcare, that level of flexibility, that is, and I understand that others are commuting a long way, but is nearby, we're going to be pushing people out of an amazing community and amazing school system. And so I thank you for your time and appreciate everyone's voice in this.
I think Assistant Chief said we can put people at the podium so that they have the microphone. He tried to move it, but it's not gonna work.
Oh, would that be better for online?
It is louder.
It's louder and the mics will pick it up.
Oh, okay.
Because they'll be speaking louder.
If not, we'll let.
Should be able to hear that. If you do that.
Did anybody try that when I had asked about an hour ago?
I don't have permission to use that.
I specifically
There's
asked.
a lot of controls. for
Yeah, I mean,
You could dump the entire.
this
Zoom.
isn't our building or our class, you know, like it, we don't use it. So I did try.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Stay to the side of it, that's all. Sorry, was that a fire?
I appreciate that.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Kara Hunter of 261 Hillbrook Lane. I am also a parent to 2 children that are at a child's garden, and one of them also receives services at the ECC. Her teacher at a child's garden noticed that was our point of reference for her issues that she is now mastering objectives. She's getting the early intervention that she needs. So I can't stress enough the importance of the ECC. I fully appreciate that. I'm speaking to you today requesting that you reconsider renewing the lease of the Mona Terrace property to a child's garden and working towards a long-term solution that provides the many families, our community at a child's garden, with continuity in childcare. It is imperative that continuity of childcare be at the forefront of your considerations regarding this issue. Access to and affordability of childcare is a major crisis in Fairfield, in the state of Connecticut, nationwide. There are extensive waiting lists that may never clear, meaning that families displaced from a child's garden may not be able to find space in a daycare, even with 1 or 2 years notice. I can anecdotally tell you my daughter's first daycare closed when she was 2. We had already planned on her going to a child's garden when she was 3. I put her on the wait list when she was 9 months old. But in a panic, I did put her on the wait list at many other places in town. And I can tell you she's now heading to kindergarten and still has not received spots at many of them. And we're looking about 3 years later. I have recently called around to gauge the length of waiting lists at comparable programs in town and the pace of clearing that wait list. It seems like many daycares are able to admit 1, maybe 2 children in each class off the wait list each registration cycle. And they have wait lists that are very often double digits, meaning the majority of those children will never get a placement. Imagine adding over 100 children from a child's garden to those already over capacity wait lists. I do want to speak to, deviating from my script, one thing that I don't think we've brought up yet is that this is going to disproportionately impact certain communities more than others. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but a child's garden is one of the only daycares in town that does not require a deposit to place your child on the wait list. This makes a child's garden an ideal option for families that may not have the financial means to go put $100 here, $200 here. It is truly not unrealistic to expect to spend north of $1,000 to join wait lists, knowing that you may never get a spot. Requiring a deposit effectively skews your enrollments towards a population with greater financial means and security. That is a privilege that not everyone has. And a program like a Child's Garden that doesn't require a deposit should be protected if we truly wish to support lower income families in our community. Continuity is imperative from the perspective of a working parent. I couldn't do the job that I have or have climbed to where I am, which I'm very proud of, without the people at a Child's Garden who I fully trust with the most important people in my entire life. Even a few months lapse in childcare will force working parents from the workforce. I urge you to work with Mr. Miklas to find a solution that ensures the continuity of childcare for all of our community members. People move to this town and stay in this town because it is so family friendly. Every single day, new families either considering coming to town or that have recently moved to town go to the various social media sites and inquire about childcare availability. And every single day, they are probably disheartened to find that they're probably looking at 2 years without access to full-time center-based childcare. Displacing such a large number of children is only going to make that impossible for families to choose Fairfield. One parent cannot work if you do not have childcare. And many families can't afford to live in this town without dual income. I truly love this town. I believe every single one of those families would be happy here and would contribute positively to our community. And in that spirit, I urge you to keep the continuity of childcare for a Child's Garden as a priority in your decision-making.
Hi, my name is Julia Berg and I'm a lifelong resident of Fairfield, currently living at 240 Crestwood Road. I am here because this decision affects all working parents in the town who require childcare or will at some point in their lifetime require childcare. I have 2 children, soon to be 3, at a Child's Garden. And as my fellow parents have stated already, there's a childcare crisis in our town. And our town has a very limited number of affordable and available options that offer full-time care. Displacing the children at a Child's Garden will only make this crisis work and expand the already years-long waitlists at the few other centers in town. Additionally, as others have said, there is no way that these other centers can accommodate the number of children that would be displaced. As has been discussed today, it is my understanding that the town intends to use the space for the ECC, and I fully support the needs for ECC to have a space fitting of their needs. What they do for the children they teach is amazing, and the town is lucky to have such a great program. However, displacing one fantastic school like a Child's Garden and its children to benefit another fantastic school cannot be the answer. I actually live much closer to other daycares in town, yet do travel farther across town for my children to attend a Child's Garden because it is the best option for my family. My children have thrived during their time at a Child's Garden. Sorry, I'm nervous. I work a high-stress, time-consuming job that I've worked really hard for, and finding teachers that you can trust to help care for your children for so many hours of the day is a hard thing for any parent. But everyone who works at a Child's Garden is so caring and puts so much time and effort into helping to mold our children into wonderful people. My girls come home literally every day talking about how much they love their teachers. Working parents, most especially mothers, are being forced to leave the workforce at a concerning rate. Should a Child's Garden have to close its doors, I guarantee the town will see a drastic decline in the number of working parents, again, especially mothers, further affecting the ability of families to afford to live here, while also causing those considering this wonderful town to choose not to move here because there's no childcare options. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kristen Belfield. I live at 81 Totten Road. Again, I just want to echo my thanks for you being here and staying so late. I said, if we're lucky, guys, we might miss bedtime for the kids. So my family moved here about 4 years ago. We didn't know anybody. Coming out of COVID, it took us about a year to get in off the wait list at another daycare center up on Kings Highway. At the time, they only had a spot for my older daughter. I have a 4-year-old daughter now and a 2-year-old son. So we piecemealed together childcare until very luckily 2 spots opened for my children at a child's garden. To kind of echo some of the sentiments, it's not an exaggeration when I say I picked my daughter up every day to a new face in the classroom that I did not know. My children right now, my daughter's teacher has been at a child's garden for more years than I can count. My son's teacher I know has been there for over 20 years. And so just echoing just the beauty of how wonderful these teachers are. My children have thrived here. My family has thrived in Fairfield. We've created this really beautiful community in a huge part thanks to a child's garden, and a large part thanks to you and the board and the people who've come before you who have just developed and fostered this beautiful community that we have. I am getting a little emotional just talking about it. I'll tell you, the first time I was ever disappointed in this town, Mr. Gerber, was the email response that I got from your office back to my concern about the potential closure of a child's garden. In the email, it was quoted, "This is a business. This business's existence is not tied to this space." And I quote, "Businesses relocate all the time." This is a business, but this isn't a clothing store. This isn't a coffee shop, right? This is a child care center taking care of hundreds and hundreds, and looking back at 40 years, thousands of children in this community, okay? I'm a healthcare provider, all right? Every day I make decisions that I weigh risk, benefit, pros, cons, the consequences. Every decision I make, I give a thorough processing to what that decision means. And so I hold myself to a set of professional standards. So what I'm asking, what our families are asking of you, is that you hold yourself to your own professional standards, not businesses relocate all the time, right? What are the consequences to the decisions that you're making? So that's what we're asking of you today. Thank you.
Hey all, I'll be very brief because everybody's already said this a lot better than I will, but Greg Strickland, 52 Gould Avenue. We have a child on the way. We've been trying for about 8 years, finally on the way. Planning on starting a child's garden in October. Super excited about that because it's an amazing program. I think the one thing I wanted to point out is just that we need to stop decoupling public education from a service like this. This service exists because the public government doesn't provide this service. So we're going in with the assumption that the school system takes priority over a service that provides equally valuable things to kids. So we need to stop thinking that one is more important than the other, and we need to think about how they coexist. So that's, I mean, honestly, that's all I really wanted to say. But yeah, I just want to get away from the assumption that public education or publicly funded things are somehow more important than private. So.
Glad we have the podium now. This is easier. Hi, everybody. I'm Megan McCloat, 2815 Reading Road. First, I must say it's very uplifting to sit in this room and see so many young parents and really hardworking, fired up, working moms and young parents that are willing to come today and advocate for their children, because I think that just makes us all feel a lot better about the future of Fairfield. So I just want to, first of all, thank you all for being here. And I can say that because I'm not a parent, so I might be one of the only people to speak so far that is not here on necessarily behalf of a child's garden, but I'm looking at this more of a zoomed out financial analysis. And when you look at what this is on the agenda, this is a basic landlord-tenant situation. And where I have trouble with a lot of the statements that I've heard tonight is how this was approached with absolute disregard to the historical context of a 43-year-old tenant as a very simple business decision, as if this isn't going to impact a whole stratified group of people that is going to reverberate around our community for many years. We've had some individuals come up and they've been brought to tears to think how they're going to have to relocate out of our town, that they're no longer feeling supported in this community to continue to be able to to work as frontline workers, as teachers, as healthcare providers, and that is terrifying. If we're at a point in our society where we need to make these types of decisions as a basic financial modeling analysis to say that this is a business and they just need to relocate somewhere else, I think that that should really scare a lot of us. So I really just want to look at this from a more zoomed out financial perspective, because I think some of the things I heard today, I have a lot more questions than answers. And I recognize this is not a question and answer forum, but I do want to put it on the record that there were a couple things said. Specifically, Selectwoman Kupchak alluded to the fact that there's astronomical costs associated with the refurbishing of the FEMA flood zone issues, the PCBs and the caulking, things that to me generally scream a lot of money. Yet then we heard this concept of the 50-50 rule, which I understood, and I confirmed it while we were sitting here, that that only applies to the assessed value of a structure and not of the total land value. So when we talk about a 50-50 rule applying to a $10 million valued property, I think we're miscalculating that, because I think it's really only the structure, which I looked up on the field card as we were sitting here, is only 4.9 million, which now brings our 50-50 rule down to just over 2 million. That becomes a much quicker budget analysis that it might not be as feasible as some of us have thought in some of the discussions. But I think that's kind of the gravamen of the issue, is that there has been no plan put forward as to what the actual use of the space is going to be. Yet we've made a decision to terminate a lease, albeit on a year-to-year renewal, of a 43-year-old tenant in our community. Frankly, I think we owe them a little bit more respect than that. I think that they have absolutely demonstrated that they have embraced our families, our frontline workers, our community members in a tremendous way, becoming the enabling factor for people to move to Fairfield and allowing so many of our families who are our tax base, right? They're paying into our tax base to be able to work and give back in our community. And we're just going to say 16 months, 12 months, whatever it is, we'll look back at the record, but it's just a business. We can relocate them as a deli. Frankly, I'm not satisfied with that answer. I think we can do better and we can partner better for a longstanding tenant that has been a family supporter in our town for a really long time. I think we deserve a proposal that specifies what the cost to taxpayers are going to be if we're even talking about renovating this building, to be for the ECC, to be for the health department, to be for, you know, Sam and Joe's Deli. It doesn't matter. What is the cost to taxpayers to actually refurbish this building to be at the FEMA level that's required by law? How long is it going to take? And is that worth terminating a lease with less than 16 months notice for people that we've heard pleading, virtually bleeding, they're begging on their knees saying, we can't find a wait list somewhere that's less than 2 years. It's a pretty simple solution to me. We need more time for these families. We got to partner with them. We're not asking for a perpetuity lease here. We're just saying, give these parents some more time so that there's not a critical closure that's going to impact, you know, over 100 families. That has a major impact in our community. So I think we can be thoughtful about how we come away from this meeting, and hopefully the dialogue continues with the Child Garden ownership, with these wonderful families that have advocated on behalf of the next generation of Fairfield. I think we have so much to be looking forward to, that we just handled this inappropriately and we have an opportunity to fix it. So let's support these families. Let's look at what they're asking and say, it's not ridiculous to say they need more time, or we need to put together some really critical financial modeling to see what it is it's going to do to even talk about using this space for an alternative use. I think to say that we did all of this without putting forward a waterfall of a 5 or 10 year outlook to say what the financial cost would be to utilize this space seems really premature. It seems really reckless. And I think we have an opportunity to fix this now. So I think a lot of people are asking for that. In closing, I just want to say that there's something I have tremendous trouble with that was said in the initial statements, which is that the government's place is not to fund things. And I think one of the earlier parents mentioned that this is actually not really looking like a subsidy at all. It's looking like a bridge to a solution in our community that Fairfield is one of the only places that's blessed to be able to provide. Let's continue that legacy, right? Let's not back up and say we're going to take things away from what brought families here in the first place. Let's continue to support them. Let's continue to show them that they are a part of our Fairfield family. They're asking for more time. It's not crazy considering we don't have a demonstrable way of showing how we're going to use this space in 2 years anyway. So I think that it's a very valid request, and I really hope the Board of Selectmen continues it. Thank you.
But every time
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I did not plan on speaking. Public speaking is my least favorite thing. So thank you for all the parents that came up here and were very prepared and speak on behalf of all of us. But I felt like I owed it to my son now that I sacrificed 2 hours of the very minimal time you get with your kids to be here to fight for a school that he loves, somewhere that's great for him. My husband and I have known the owners for probably close to 2 decades now. And we can't speak highly enough about him. And even if there are other places in town that have long wait lists, these people are raising our kids. And we can't afford to stay home. I know it's a nice luxury that some people have, but in Fairfield, we don't have that. At least for my family, we have 1 car. So being able to walk to school, it's important to us. And I feel like if not, we're gonna have to relocate. And our kid's just gonna become another number in a classroom. I worked at one of the more so cookie cutter daycares right out of college. You had to wear your certain polo. And, you know, as soon as your classroom hit the ratio, you were cut. Didn't matter how many hours you worked that day, what your paycheck was going to look like at the end of the week. As soon as they were in ratio, they didn't need you anymore. And here, this is something that a child's garden does so well. I walk in and there might only be 3 kids there at 7 in the morning, but all the teachers are already there. They're not complaining about working long hours or changing diapers. They're so happy to see our kids every day and raise them. So I think we really owe it to the staff to make sure that we're providing them with some sort of stability. And as far as the parents, the amount of unnecessary stress that was sprung upon us 2 weeks ago is outrageous. I know every mom here can talk about all the mom guilt they go through. And here we are again, sacrificing time that we could be spending with our kids. I mean, they're only little for so long. So to have to sit in a board meeting and talk about this is pretty much a shame. So I hope that within the next few weeks, we can get some sort of clarity as far as what a solution will be. So hopefully we don't all panic and we can find somewhere for our kids to go. Well, like everybody said, you don't have a plan. So we don't really appreciate all this unnecessary stress. I understand that you need the space for other things, but until you've ironed out a plan, I don't think that this drastic change is necessary. So thank you for your consideration.
Hi, I'm Ann. I am a teacher at a child's garden. I've been there for over 13 years, and it's a family to me. And we take care of these kids and love them as if they were our own. We do things in the community to help raise these kids to go off to go to kindergarten, to be more productive in life. You taking away something that has been here actually longer than a lot of us are alive. We have an opportunity to work together and come up with a solution that will help both parties. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak? You can always send an email.
Somebody online.
There's someone online. Yeah.
Kristen Holland.
Not sure who.
Kristen Holland.
Oh, Kristen Holland, or would you like to speak?
I would love to speak. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very well.
Excellent. I'm Kristen Holland and I'm on 61 Vera Street. Thank you for your time today. And I may not provide new information, but I thought it important to give a little perspective. I'm an older parent with 3 children who have gone through Child's Garden and they're now in grad school and high school. So as the first speaker mentioned, I chose Child's Garden because it was a full-time option compared to transferring kids between locations during the day. Best option with 2 working parents. I have to say, I'm also a pain in the neck when it comes to research and knowing things. So when I was looking at daycares, I went through everything. I went through references and interviews and tours. And I walked in the Child's Garden building and I was less than impressed. I had seen so many new buildings and home daycares, and I thought to myself, why can't the center be more up to date? And then, of course, I realized it was a town property, FEMA restrictions, because I live in the area as well. But then I met the teachers, administrators, and found that the quality of the care was really amazing, and they do what they can do with the building. We moved to Fairfield in '96 to be part of a community, and Child's Garden was our first community. So many of these families are friends of ours today, and the kids have moved through Sherman, Roger Ludlow, and Fairfield Ludlow. If we'd used other options, these kids wouldn't be friends with those kids. They wouldn't be in our school district. I even have helped another family on my street because they have small children and their daycares across town. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go help him so that he can go to work. And I do it because his daycare doesn't provide the hours and flexibility he needs. I can't imagine that the town could immediately afford the changes to building or that the changes would be FEMA compliant. And as Ms. Jacobson mentioned, kids shouldn't be commuting across town or out of town. I'm lucky to be in the communities that I'm in. And while I don't know the numbers, I would ask that Child's Garden be given more time to find a new local location. I haven't had a kid at Child's Garden in 11 years or more. So it shows how strongly that my roots are with these teachers and administrators. So thank you. And I really think that the situation needs a thoughtful, planned, long solution. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Hi. I wasn't prepared to speak today, but I did feel the need to say a short something. My name is Caitlin Patrick. I live at 196 Mona Terrace. Our property actually borders the town property. And I have a 15-month-old in the infant room currently at Child's Garden. And admittedly, we didn't look at any other daycares. We lived right next door. We saw how wonderful of a community it was. I have friends that went to a Child's Garden when they were young. And it was just such an amazing addition to the community that we didn't really feel the need to explore other options. I recently explored other options, unfortunately, because this was thrust upon us in admittedly what I feel was a bit short-sighted and under-researched way. But in doing that research, I was met with a lot of beautiful, sparkly, new, multi-million-dollar renovated conglomerate looking spaces from large corporate structured daycares with a revolving door of employees. And that didn't feel anything like family. So I know that there's been a lot of talk from a level of emotion because it is an emotional and family related decision. And I think that there's been a lot of comments around town that a town needs to be run like a business. And to some degree, I understand that there are important financial aspects to a town that need to be accounted for. But to pretend like the town does not need to keep its families and the enrichment of its children and the employment of its residents and just it's so much larger of a picture than numbers on a spreadsheet. I think that that can't be understated. But I did want to mention, rather than reiterating what a lot of the parents that have already done a really great job in a much more prepared way than I am today, just for the sake of doing things the right way, I do think that there's no reason that this should have been rushed in the way that it was. I think that the town should do their due diligence. I know from being in a related industry how long it takes
to do research, get thoughtful bids, make sure that renovations are planned for accurately. They never take quite as quick of a time frame as everyone likes to think that they do. The FEMA restrictions are a very big part of the or should be a very big part of the town's decision-making process in terms of how much they want to invest in this building for the long term and how those improvements will age over time. And I think that at a bare minimum, the residents and the families involved deserve to have a thoughtful proposal that the town has thoughtfully considered. They have all the numbers in front of them. They have exhausted all other options. And there is meaning behind the decision being made, as opposed to this could potentially have a town use in mind. So I think what I would love to see is a child's garden to flourish there in perpetuity. But I think at a bare minimum, what I think most residents deserve is a much more thoughtful proposal and many more months of research that would be required, and to see hard numbers for alternatives for the town uses of this space. So I do thank you for listening to all of us today and for allowing this time. But I urge you to take the time that this decision of this magnitude requires. So thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Okay, so thank you all for coming out and voicing your concerns. And very aware of the issue and your issues. We'll take them into consideration. But at this point, I think we're going to adjourn the meeting.
There's one more item.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. Oh my goodness. Pilot. Item number 20, to discuss the status of the town's lease with the Pilot House Foundation. The Pilot's House, and let me give a brief background on the Pilot's House and why I decided to terminate the lease with the Pilot's House as of August, although I have during Crusoe through the end of the year to stay there if she so chooses, and I'll be meeting with her over the coming weeks. Pilot's House, as some of you may know, used to be a thriving a space that was thriving, and with many young adults doing activities at that space.
Special needs young adults, sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
Special needs young adults.
Special needs young adults at that space. Many different activities, including there was OTPT there. There were gatherings there. There were weekend gatherings there. There was some cooking going on there. The last several years, there's been very little going on there. The person running Pilot House has taken on a much bigger an effort on a farm with equestrine therapy. The Pilot House space has been used very infrequently. And I know that because I drive by there very often and have done so for several months at different times of the day. And why did I do that? Because when I was out running for office and knocking on doors, one of the biggest issues that I faced was from parents of children who are special needs young adults now, who had very few, if any, options. And recurring theme was there was not much, if anything, going on at the pilot house space on Colony Street. And why can't we use that more effectively? And given my strong feelings for that was not right. I contacted, and I know this had come up last year and was put off, but I contacted the person running the pilot house and said, we're not going to renew your lease. And it was not an easy conversation, but again, that space is going to be filled again with activities. We have people who can want to jump right in and start using it right away for the purpose that I believe that space was intended for. It's been, if you look in the windows over the last few years, it's been somewhat neglected. So that was my decision, and that's the reason for it. I think it's going to, in the end, be a better use of the space for the same intended purpose. Would you like to add anything?
We should open it up and allow the, we can't, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think we should open it up to the director and allow her to come up and speak before we speak. I think that would be appropriate and
Yeah.
fair.
That would be appropriate.
Can we go there?
Sure.
I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. Mr. Gerber, what I am most upset with as one of your constituents is that you didn't give me the common courtesy or the respect to not to spy in my windows, that you didn't pick up the telephone and call me and sit down and speak to me about my program. I've been in this town advocating for special needs children for over 20 years. I started a program in this town when there was nothing. My family sacrificed for this community for 20 years. And for you not to give my program the respect it deserves, to pick up a phone and say, can I come and sit down and understand what is going on? You based your decision on what other people in here said. If you sat down and had the common courtesy, as you owed my non-for-profit, you sat here this evening talking about for-profit business. I am a nonprofit business. I am probably the only nonprofit business that you can look at my tax returns where we actually zero down, which I'm proud of. And you know how much I make, Mr. Gerber? I don't make a red cent. I don't pay myself a single penny because this is not about money. This is about doing what's right for our community. Unfortunately, we had suffered during COVID and trying to recover. Prior to COVID, we had started a new program. And you know why we started a new program, Mr. Gerber? If you'd asked me, I'll tell you now. Because you know what happened? Those phone calls weren't coming, Mr. Gerber, for a music program. Our phones weren't ringing, Mr. Gerber, for any more cooking classes. Do you know what my phone was ringing about, Mr. Gerber? That my over 18 and my over 21 child didn't have anywhere to go. Do you know why, Mr. Gerber? Because there weren't any programs. That's what Pilot House has always been about, finding the need within our community to provide a service. There are other classes. You know who's providing some of these classes, Mr. Gerber? Our town of Fairfield now at Park and Rec. They started offering other services to our special needs communities, as well as other businesses that have opened up since Pilot House. I could sit here and name them, but I'm not going to bore all of you with that because there are new businesses in town. So I made the decision with my board and our staff to switch our gears into learning how to employ and train our young adults with disabilities. I have Brett Warren here, who's a jewelry designer who I met in 2018 prior to COVID, who came out from California to train my young adults how to make these beautiful bracelets. Beautiful bracelets that they are learning how to make, that we started to do prior to COVID.
that we opened up a storefront in the front of our building at Colony Street where taught them how to run a store. We went on to the community and did farmers markets and every pop-up shops. And that's what we did to survive during COVID. So unfortunately, Mr. Gerber, during COVID, my son attempted suicide. So unfortunately, yes, Mr. Gerber, I finally had to put my family first, and Pilot House had to wait. I apologize for that, and I apologize to the families who I let down. But let me tell you something, Mr. Gerber, on top of it, I had a heart attack and had heart issues. So I had to put myself first because you know what? I am my sole provider for my special needs son, and he needs me. I have my health back and I have my fire back. And we've been working with DDS to create a day program, which this community does not offer, for over 21. That they will be learning how to continue on these skills that we started prior to COVID, but unfortunately it is a process. It doesn't happen quickly. I wish it did, but it doesn't. I have Brett Warren here this evening. We have kids that are starting to move forward in this process to move this program forward. We also, to answer to what's been going on at Colony Street, yes, I do have the farm and the two businesses work together. We have to fundraise in order to continue our mission of feeding the animals at the farm. And unfortunately, because we are one of the most cost-effective programs for therapeutic riding, based on the national average in Fairfield, these families are paying minimal for what they're receiving. A 3-adult ratio and a private lesson that they can't get anywhere else. So that costs money, sir, that these families do not have and insurance doesn't pay for. So I have to raise that money. And that event that we raise that provides a program in this town, our young adults, maybe not to your liking, sir, that I only have throwing 140 kids out and told me that my 15 aren't enough for you. So I'd like to know how many numbers, sir, because it's not a numbers game at this point because they have over 100 and you're throwing them out of their space. They're a for-profit. I'm a non-for-profit and I have 15 kids. Expanding to do more once we get this program up and running and more funding comes in. I've accepted the fact that you're throwing us out of our space without the decency of sitting down and getting to know who I am or my family or what they've sacrificed or what you're doing to my staff that has been educating themselves, have gone back to school to get further degrees to help move this organization forward so that we can provide a valuable service to this community. So I thank you for giving us till December, sir, but unfortunately it isn't very helpful to us because I have to run our summer program and I have to run our fundraisers and pack up Pilot House, 15 years worth of our work there on top of having to relocate. It is not doable. So I am here tonight to beg. I'm grateful that you've given us to December. My original conversation to you when you blindsided me of telling me that you were not going to renew our lease is that you give us the common courtesy that you're giving everybody else, that you give us a year. Because I cannot effectively, I have to figure out where I'm going to move this program for because all of the progress that I've made for these families for DDS, guess what's going to happen, sir? I have to start over. I implore you to please give us another year so that we can do this adjustment, and I will gladly walk out and say that you supported this. But we cannot do this by December. It's not doable. And just so you know, we can't just move things to the farm because I have to go in front of your board. I have to go in front of the town because now I'm going to be doing a change of venue of what we provide. And so then that becomes a whole process. So I can't just move this to the farm, sir. I have to relocate to another facility. Because this doesn't fall under the preview of therapeutic riding, what we're offering, what we're doing now. Doesn't fall under that preview according to what we provide at the farm. So I really would appreciate the respect that my program and these families deserve, that you could extend at least to August and give us that courtesy.
Good evening. My name is Brett Lauren. I am a jewelry designer. I had the pleasure of meeting Doreen Caruso at the Dogwood Festival in 2018. I was living in Southern California, but I was actually participating in one of Fairfield's amazing events. And upon meeting Doreen and learning about her mission, which so closely aligned with mine, which has always been to employ people from underserved communities or in the margins, or people who want to work but don't have the opportunity through conventional circumstances. When I knew I had to make a move back east, we decided to partner up. I take exception, sir, to your comment about driving by and not seeing cars and not seeing things go on. Kids get dropped off. Secondly, the windows, unless you're going around certain parts of the building, the boutique is up front. The boutique is not in service at this time because we finished up after Christmas. You can't see my office that's in the back from the street. So just a couple little things. I get very defensive about this program because I see the progress that has been made with these incredible. So I knew some of them when they were children, now they're young adults. We are teaching them to be contributing members of society, to rebuild their confidence, or sometimes give them the first confidence that they've ever had. Much to the point of the parents here for the children, continuity is key. When you have kids with sensory disorders or special needs, God, there's so many different ones. It's been from Jamie and Down syndrome to Christopher with autism. Upsetting their environment too many times, even once, is so detrimental. It can take weeks to get back on track. Learning a new skill with me can take them ages. But once they do, and their faces light up and their confidence builds, then it's, well, I want to come to a show with you and sell. I want to do something else. If there aren't programs for them and their parents aren't going to be around forever and all these things that go on, we're preparing them to go get jobs someplace else. They may not ever live on their own, but they have a sense of self and they can contribute and they can work. So I'm echoing Doreen's request until at least next August. And quite honestly, I cannot bear another phone call from her being so devastated by the situation and so scared for these kids and trying to keep a roof over their heads. So thank you for your consideration.
Good evening. My name is Lucia Rico, and I live at 346 Stratfield Road. I was in the 8th grade when I first started getting involved with the Pilot House. My best friend, Allie, Doreen's daughter, invited me one night to their tea night at a local restaurant, unbeknownst to me that one night would change my young life. I was in the midst of struggling with my own demons and saw no sunshine at the end of the tunnel. That night, I met a few children who would become my sunshine at the end of the tunnel, my inspirations. The ever so sweet G, to protect the child's anonymity, was just a little girl when we first met. G was born typical, but sadly, a series of health issues stunted her various delays. Sorry, I'm nervous. I hate public speaking. But sadly got sick very young, resulting in various delays and health issues. Despite that, she was a walking ray of sunshine with a smile permanently on her face, even on her worst of days. G was in many of my classes, most notably the baking and cooking class. During my 6 years at Pilot House, she was in all of them. But we would giggle more than we would cook and bake. G and countless other students I had the utmost pleasure of working with and growing with made me the woman I am today. Their sunshine gave me the push and determination to accomplish all that I have today. If these pure souls could wake up every day with a smile on their face despite all of their challenges, so could I. Professionals say that the only form of unconditional love is between a parent and a child. Clearly, they've never spent 5 minutes with a special needs kid. They're extraordinary beings, or walking, living, breathing examples of unconditional love who just want to spread their warmth and smiles and who care about you for who you are and not for what you provide them like the rest of society. The Pilot House has done so much for the community and for our children. We're simply asking for a little bit more time, some humanity, and just a little bit of help. Board of Selectmen, to put it frankly, I'm very disappointed in all of you for how you've reacted to Pilot House and Child's Garden, which 20 years ago, I was a student there. And I might not remember some of their names, but their faces I will always remember. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Speak?
So I've been familiar, as I believe Christine has as well, working with the Pilot House when I was a member of Congressman Shea's congressional office, because I handled, among other things, special education issues. So I became familiar with the program. The program's been there since 2006. I had spent a lot of time in that building, going to the pop-up shops, going to the Christmas events, going to the sing-alongs during the day. And, you know, the young lady, you really touched me, because you're right. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of love in that place, and always made you feel really like something great was happening. Doreen had some significant issues that she has dealt with. And when I was the leader of the town, I took the time to listen to people, hear them out, and lead with compassion. And not everything is black and white, and not everything is the way it should be. And things don't always appear as they seem. When I heard that there wasn't even a consideration of sitting down with Doreen and her team and talking this through, I just, listen, I knew she had problems. We were working on it, and I knew she probably couldn't hold on to that space, but the way this was handled, honestly, it just breaks my heart. It does, it breaks my heart, because I know that John Sullivan never would behave this way. Jackie Durrell would never behave this way. I don't really know anyone who would behave this way. So I just think it's sad that someone who has given so much to so many young people, young adults with developmental disabilities and families, couldn't even be treated with common courtesy, and had to have this whole thing where she has to come here and talk about all her personal issues and the pain her family has endured, I think is unacceptable. I think it's wrong, and this is not the way the town should be run. And I think we should give her a year, after giving 20 years to Fairfield families on a shoestring. I think that's the least we can do for this woman and this program.
No, this is, there's times when you're in elected office that you try to keep it personal and look at it as an elected official for a larger town perspective. And this one is hard for me. I have a son who has Down syndrome. He took many programs at the Pilot House. Started probably when he was 2 or 3 at Colony Street. Moved on to doing therapeutic writing at the farm. And when COVID hit, the program at Colony Street went away. And at that point, I was chair of the Board of Education involved in SEPTA, had a lot of parents reach out to me what's going on, you know, what's going on at Colony Street. The continuity is key. That is so true. And full disclosure, I did speak to Mrs. Caruso on the phone and shared some of these. For some families, the continuity of the programming at Colony Street is taken away. I absolutely understand the need to pivot to the farm. But I think that we need to be just keeping it real, that there were services, wonderful, wonderful services at the Colony Street location that families and children depended on. And when those services were no longer offered, and I understand absolutely why you had to pivot, there was a loss for those families. And heard from it and shared, you know, concerns with and I might have with Mr. Gerber, during the pandemic, when I was chair of the Board of Education, you know, we were looking for space for the community partnership program, which was a program for young adults that are still under the public school district, but they're over 18, the young adults that were spoken about. We didn't have a place for them. They were at the university and then they got bounced around. So we were looking for space. I don't remember if I spoke to the subject about this or not. So I get it. I mean, I absolutely get it. And it's on a personal level, I thank Mrs. Caruso for all the programming that she offered and filling a void all those years ago. I also appreciate from a more, you know, town official, this is a town facility. It's not being used in the same way that it was when the town elected to provide the pilot house with that space, just in terms of number of children served, number of programming, not really as accessible to as many people, that open to exploring other options for that space. The adaptive recreation program from Parks and Rec was mentioned. I commend the town for building up that programming, seeing the need for these children. I know that they're right now looking for a space. They're getting bounced around also. And in looking for a home for them, I think that Colony Street could be a potential spot for them. I was not aware that Mrs. Caruso was working with DDS for a day program until I spoke with her. You know, I do think that there's a need for that. And I would just appreciate this is not a vote of the Board of Selectmen. I would encourage Mr. Gerber just to, you said you were going to sit down and speak with her. I would just encourage you to do that and find out more about the application to DDS. And Mrs. Caruso, if you haven't already done so, if there's any paperwork that you could forward to Mr. Gerber to have a better understanding of what the next steps are. Very much try to lead from a place, understand that life gets in the way sometimes, and want to see if we can find a solution that maybe we can make everybody happy to some extent. I think that we are trying to recognize the need and trying to serve the same population of students. So just leave it at that. It's very close. So I'm not my most eloquent on this one.
So in my own defense, I did visit Pilot House, and Doreen and her son were there you know, we were met with a lot of hostility, yelling.
Can I just say something? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't just sit here and listen to lies. I'm sorry. I've listened to enough lies. I can't. I won't do it anymore. At this point, I have nothing to lose, to be honest. You've already thrown us out. I have nothing to lose. I'm tired of being politically correct. I'm tired of being part of political bullshit, plain English. I'm tired of it. You did not pick up the phone, sir, and give me the common courtesy of asking for a meeting. I was out on medical leave. You did not pick up the phone and say, Mrs. Caruso, I'd love to come and meet with your program. Just like you just said at this meeting, you're peering in our windows. You showed up with your entourage and disrespected my program when I had 2 clients in the building, which as a landlord, you're supposed to notify me. You are not supposed to just walk in our building. So I've been kind and not hired an attorney to go after the town. for being disrespectful to the clients when I do have them in the building, that you come and go as you please. That's not what you're allowed to do, sir. So again, it's about respect and common courtesy. If that's why you got the greeting that you did, because of the lack of respect that you and other people have had for my program, peering in our windows and stalking us. Our doors are locked, sir, because we're trying to protect the children and the privacy that is going on behind the doors. We're not selling drugs in there or doing anything, illegal. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry. You just said yourself looking in the windows. Christine, you said when we talked. How about picking up the phone and calling me and saying, can I come in and meet with you? I'd love to know what's going on. Can we help you? Is that so hard to do? I'm sorry. I live in this town as well, and I think you owe us that respect. I don't just walk in your office, sir. I don't just walk in your office at your job, Christine, do I? Or Brenda or anybody? Does anybody just walk in anybody's office? Or do you pick up the phone and have a common courtesy and say, hey, I want to see what's going on. I heard this. Can I see?
Mrs. Crusoe, and when I spoke on the phone with you, I shared that I was campaigning. I was in your neighborhood knocking doors. We have a long relationship. I wanted to see if anybody was there to knock on the door and come in. Looked in the window, and what I saw was just, the pop-up shop with stuff from Christmas. I didn't pick up the phone at that point to call because it wasn't planned. I was just in the neighborhood and looked in. Was in the summer, not an elected official acting in any official capacity.
But Christine,
Well,
I think you have to admit, the leader of the town
Brenda,
should not just be showing up or peeking in the windows of a place that does services for kids and young adults that are developmentally disabled. Sorry, it's not right. It's wrong, plain and simple.
I was responding.
It's unbelievable,
I was
actually.
responding to the comment that I
It's
made
just unbelievable.
when
I'm sorry, this is just, wow. Okay, are we done? Can we just
No,
adjourn?
I wasn't finished.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to clear the air on how it was handled.
Yeah.
Again, this wasn't even on my radar screen. I hit thousands and thousands of doors when I was campaigning.
You didn't hit my door.
I hit thousands and
If you
thousands.
hit my door, I would have been more than happy to talk to you and explain it.
And
Wait a second, again, I'm sorry.
no, really.
No, because Christine, I do recall I did speak to you and I did ask to sit down and have a conversation with our program with you and Bill. I do recall prior to our benefit at the farm, and you said that you and Bill will be coming there you and Bill will be stopping by. And what was my response to you? I didn't want our benefit to be used as a political thing, that I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with the two of you. So I did ask for that, right? Let's all be honest. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I just ask you all to be honest as well.
And I absolutely, you reached out to me about wanting to sit down at some time. Again, not elected, said you were gonna stop by Harvest Fair. You asked us not to come, which I was surprised that
Because I didn't want, right, because I didn't want to be, what did I say? Because
you would not want to, I figured that it would be the perfect opportunity to showcase.
I'm at a benefit. I'm at a fundraiser. So it's time for me to talk. I'm at a fundraiser.
Doreen,
I want to wrap up, and thank you. Fine, that you interrupted. I don't care. But that I knocked thousands of doors, and there were 10 things maybe that were recurring themes. And affordable housing, places for elder people to move to where they could afford in town. And one of them was that there are not enough services for young adults with disabilities, for job training, which is not happening, at least not at the level that should be now. Maybe it did at one point. And over and over and over again, people kept asking me, what's going on at the pilot house? Can we use that space? So the answer for me now is yes, we can make something happen at that space. There is a huge demand for it. It's 6,100 square feet of space that's not being appropriately used right now. That's my opinion. But that matters. And it's the opinion of many, many other people. And I would like to work with the pilot house to figure out an alternative. If it's storage, we can work on storage. If it's boards that need to be, we need discussions, boards to do things at the farm, which does have structures on it, then I will help with that. It's not like I don't appreciate or the difficulties. But what the problem I have with this space and with the other space is that we have to use them to the best of our ability for the people that need them. And that's not, in my opinion, that's not happening here. And that is the decision that I've made, and it really is my decision. So with that, motion to adjourn.
Do you have any other updates from in terms of that need to be listed on the public?
There is, what about other matters?
Well, anything that needs to be put out in the public.
One thing I would like to put out in the public is we have gotten a fair number of requests for better facilities at Penfield Pavilion. And I agree with that, and we are going to make that happen. The porta potties are not sufficient. With that, I think, anything you want to say? Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, adjourn.